Adrian N. Breitfelder, City Clerk, you are hereby directed to call a regular session of the City Council to be held on Monday, June 16th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. in the historic Federal Building for the purpose of conducting such business that may properly come before the City Council.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome to a regular session of the Dubuque City Council for June 16th, 2025. As a reminder to our participants, you can provide in-person input or virtual audio and written input during the sections of the agenda where public input is accepted. Input options during the live meeting include in-person attendees may approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any public input on the item they would like to speak to. Remote attendees can log into GoToMeeting using the login links, phone numbers, and access code that appear on the broadcast and live stream and posted on the front page of the meeting agenda. This option includes audio input and written chat input. If you are participating via computer, indicate which item you would like to speak to in the chat function or note that you would like to speak during the appropriate section. If you are participating via phone, indicate which item you would like to speak to during the appropriate section. All comments, whether in person or virtual, must be accompanied by a name and address. Additionally, written public input is accepted by contacting the City Council directly from the city's webpage at www.cityofdubuque.org/councilcontacts and through the City Clerk's office email at ctyclerk@cityofdubuque.org. This information will be reiterated during the meeting. Attendance for the session is as follows. Mayor Kavanaugh.
Here.
Council members Farber.
Here.
Thank you. Resnick.
Here.
Roussel.
Here.
Sprank.
Here.
Wethel.
Here.
City Manager Van Milligan.
Here.
Thank you. And City Attorney Brumwell.
Here.
Thank you. Mayor Kavanaugh, I will turn it over to you for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Adrian. I invite all who are able to please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our proclamation this evening is Stonehill Community's Longest Day.
Okay, and I believe Hallie Nichols is the name I have written down, but I see you brought quite a few friends.
It's lovely. All right, well, I am Haley. I'm a clinical care manager at Stonehill Communities. I am also the chair for the Alzheimer's Fundraising Committee. So, thank you for having me here this evening to accept the proclamation on behalf of Stonehill Communities. This day honors 55 million survivors worldwide who suffer from Alzheimer's and other dementias. As an organization who focuses on the continuum of care in the community, we are proud to once again be a sponsor for the Walk to End Alzheimer's. And if you can't tell, I get nervous when I'm public speaking, so excuse me.
We're a super friendly crowd.
I appreciate that, thank you. We invite you all to our community on Friday as we celebrate the longest day. Stonehill is proud to offer memory care services to our residents on campus, as well as resources for our community caregivers. Stonehill is also very excited to participate in the GUIDE program effective July 1st. This program is supposed to provide one-on-one care navigating for those with dementia in the community to keep them in the community as long as possible. Please join us at Stonehill on June 20th, where we celebrate the longest day. A full listing of events is on our Facebook event page. Thank you.
Well, Haley, thank you very much for being here to say a few words and to accept this proclamation. And thanks for everything that you do at Stonehill and everybody who works with folks who are dealing with Alzheimer's and dementia. We know so many people in our own lives who go through that, and we really appreciate the work that you do. So know that as we read this proclamation tonight.
Yeah, thank you.
City of Dubuque proclamation. Whereas Alzheimer's disease is a growing public health crisis affecting more than 6 million Americans and millions more around the world who serve as caregivers, advocates, and loved ones. And whereas the longest day is a symbolic event held annually on the summer solstice, originated by the Alzheimer's Association, representing the strength, endurance, and dedication of those facing dementia from sunrise to sunset. And whereas on this day of greatest light, communities unite to honor those living with Alzheimer's and those who care for them. We support efforts toward research in hopes of finding a cure. And whereas People across the world participate in fundraising activities of their choice to raise awareness and support for those who experience the longest day every day in their role as caregivers. And whereas we stand with those affected by Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia and renew our commitment to improving the quality of life for all those living with the disease and their caregivers. And whereas Stonehill is committed to supporting this mission. Now therefore, I, Brad M. Kavanaugh, Mayor of the City of Dubuque, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, staff, and residents of Dubuque, do hereby proclaim the 20th of June, 2025 as Stonehill Community's longest day in the City of Dubuque, Iowa, and encourage all residents to take part in supporting the longest day on Stonehill's campus. Come on up. You guys want a picture? You wore the shirts, so we should do a picture. Oh, Krenna's got you. Somebody wants to hand a phone to Krenna? And I apologize for my great height.
Are we all in? We guys can be a little more. Well, I mean, you don't want to.
Thank you all. Thanks, everybody. Thanks a lot. And thank you, Krenna. Yeah, thank you, we think. Yeah.
We'll now move on to consent items. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the consent items, please approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Please state the item you would like removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion and consideration, and consent items can be found on pages 1 through 5 of the agenda.
Thank you, Adrian. Do we have anyone here in chambers who wants to remove any of the consent items this evening? Seeing no one here. Anyone virtually?
Nope.
All right.
No?
Thank you. Back to the table then.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file the documents, adopt the resolutions, and deal with the consent items as recommended.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Resnick, second by Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprink.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0.
We'll move on to items set for public hearing. We have 3. First is setting a public hearing petition to vacate certain street and alley right-of-way easements in Julian Addition in the city of Dubuque, Iowa, for vacating petition from Elaine Reese and Doug Long for July 7th, 2025. Second is rebid 2025 repair and maintenance of the Iowa Street parking garage, initiate public bidding process and setting date for a public hearing for July 7th, 2025. And third is water system improvements 2024 North English Road Water Main Extension Project, initiate public bidding and set the public hearing date for July 21st, 2025.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Wethel.
I move to receive and file, adopt the resolutions, and set the public hearings for the dates specified.
Second by Sprank.
Got a motion by Wethel, second by Sprink. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick. Farber.
Aye.
Sprink.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0.
We'll move on to boards and commissions. We have applicant review for the Historic Preservation Commission and appointments for the Arts and Cultural Affairs Advisory Commission, the Board of Library Trustees, the Civic Center Advisory Commission, Historic Preservation Commission, Park and Recreation Advisory Commission, Resilient Community Advisory Commission, Transit Advisory Board, and Zoning Advisory Commission.
All right, thank you, Adrian. All right, well, first off, we appreciate everyone's patience tonight as we go through this process. This is going to take us a little while here, but we are going to get through it. So first up, we have the Boards and Commission applicant review for the Historic Preservation Commission. We have 1 3-year term through 2028 and 1 applicant, Janice Esser. Do we have anyone here to address us on this application? Okay, all right. Then we will move right along to the Boards and Commission appointments here. So first up, we have the Arts and Cultural Affairs Advisory Commission. So here we have 4 separate terms to work with. We have 1 3-year term through June 30th, 2027, and this is a vacant at-large term. So we're going to take this term first. So just want to call all council members' attention to the table to make sure that you recognize There are only three people actually who would qualify as the business professional, which is not the one we're on right now. It'll be the second one, but just letting you know that. So first up, this first three-year term, what I'll do is I'll just ask Adrian to call the roll, please, and we will go and name anyone we would like to be in these terms.
Wethel,
And this is, just to clarify, the first at the at-large,
Correct, yes.
Mary Loney Bichelle,
Kavanaugh,
Jess Ochoa,
Roussel,
Mary Loney Bichelle.
Resnick,
Orwell,
Farber,
Jim Albee.
Sprank,
Mary Loney Bichelle.
So Mary Loney Bichelle is appointed to the 3-year term through June 30th, 2027. So next up, we'll do the 3-year term through June 30th, 2028. This is the business professional term. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel,
Aaron Hafel,
Kavanaugh,
Nick Halder,
Roussel,
Aaron Hapel.
Resnick,
Nick Halder,
Farber,
Nick Halder.
Sprank,
Aaron Hafel.
So we have a 3-3 tie on this one.
11.
So, Krenna? This doesn't happen because we usually are odd numbered up here.
So, okay, let's think about this. Traditionally, what it means if you have a
Sorry.
sorry.
Yeah.
Traditionally, if you have a 3-3 in a situation like that, it would fail, and it could be moved to the next meeting when there's the full body that would possibly give you a tie-breaking vote, unless someone was willing to change their vote to provide a fourth, one way or the other.
Sure. Well, for simplicity's sake and the fact that we aren't necessarily in a strict time-limited situation, I suggest we move it to the next meeting to be able to have that vote then. So we will leave the vacant business professional term open until the next meeting. Okay? Next up, we have 2 terms that are the same, so 3-year terms through June 30th, 2028. So I will ask that we just go one at a time on these again. So if we could, please, Adrian, call the roll.
Wethel,
and to clarify, just one name at a time.
Correct.
Shirley Davis Orwell,
Kavanaugh,
Shirley Davis Orwell.
Roussel,
Shirley Davis Orwell.
Resnick,
Shirley Davis Orwell,
Farber,
Shirley Davis Orwell.
Sprank,
Shirley Davis Orwell.
Okay, that motion passes 6-0. Or I'm sorry, Shirley Davis Orwell is appointed to the first term through 2028, the 3-year term. So now we go on to the final term that we are filling. So just one name for this one as well. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel,
Nick Helder,
Kavanaugh,
Jess Ochoa.
Roussel,
Nick Holder, or Halder.
Resnick,
Jessica Ochoa,
Farber,
Bree Hernandez.
Sprank,
Jessica Ochoa.
All right, so we landed on a 2-2 tie on that one as well. So we will have to, I had 2 for Ochoa and 2 for Halder.
I had 3 for.
No, I'm sorry.
3 for Ochoa.
There was 3.
Thank you very much. I missed that one. Thank you for correcting me. So Jess Ochoa is appointed to the 3-year term through June 30th, 2028. I think the rest get easier, at least from well, maybe. We'll find out, I guess. All right. That one was pretty complicated. Lots of applicants. So thanks again for everybody for applying. Okay, next up we have the Board of Library Trustees. So 1 4-year term through July 1st, 2029. Here we have 3 applicants. So I will ask for a roll call once again, please.
Wethel,
Jessica Connery,
Kavanaugh,
Jessica Connery.
Roussel,
Jessica Connery.
Resnick,
Jessica Connery.
Farber,
Jessica Connery.
Sprank,
Jessica Connery.
So Jessica Connery is appointed to the term through 2029 on the Board of Library Trustees. Next, we have the Civic Center Advisory Commission. Here we have three-year terms that all end in 2028. So we're going to do these individually once again because we have 4 applicants. So one applicant at a time. So for the first applicant, Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel,
Mackenzie Blau,
Kavanaugh,
Mackenzie Blau.
Roussel,
Mackenzie Blau.
Resnick,
Mackenzie Blau.
Farber,
Mackenzie Blau.
Sprank.
Mackenzie Blau.
All right, so Mackenzie Blau is appointed to the first term. We'll move on to the second term, please, Adrian.
Wethel,
Colleen Myers,
Kavanaugh,
Colleen Myers.
Roussel,
Colleen Myers.
Resnick,
Ashley Regan.
Farber,
Colleen Myers.
Sprank.
Ashley Regan.
So Colleen Myers is appointed to the second term, and we'll move on to the final term, please.
Wethel,
Sarah Tandy,
Kavanaugh,
Sarah Tandy.
Roussel,
Sarah Tandy.
Resnick,
Ashley Regan.
Farber,
Sarah Tandy.
Sprank,
Ashley Regan.
So Sarah Tandy is appointed to the third term. Next up, Historic Preservation Commission. We have one 3-year term through July 1st, 2028. So since we only have one applicant, Rick Studer, I would ask for a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to appoint Rick Studer to the Historic Preservation Commission for a 3-year term through July 1, 2028.
Second by Sprank.
And a motion by Roussel, second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel,
aye.
Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Roussel,
Aye.
Resnick,
Aye.
Farber,
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Rick Studer is appointed to the Historic Preservation Commission. Park and Recreation Advisory Commission. So here we have 3-year terms, and we have 5 applicants. So once again, we're going to need to go through one term at a time. So if we could have the first term, please, Adrian.
Wethel,
Jason Henkel,
Kavanaugh,
Jason Hinkle.
Roussel,
Lori Olendeck.
Resnick,
Jason Henkel.
Farber,
Jason Henkel.
Sprank.
Jason Hinkle.
So Jason Hinkle is appointed to the first term. We move on to the second term, please, Adrian.
Wethel,
Josh Jorgensen,
Kavanaugh,
Josh Jorgensen.
Roussel,
Lori Olendeck.
Resnick,
Josh Jorgensen.
Farber,
Josh Jorgensen.
Sprank.
Josh Jorgensen.
So Josh Jorgensen is appointed to the second term. On to the third term, please, Adrian.
Wethel,
Lori Allendeck,
Kavanaugh,
Lori Allendick.
Roussel,
Lori Olendeck.
Resnick,
Lori Allendick.
Farber,
Lori Allendick.
Sprank.
Lori Allendick.
All right, so Lori Allendick is appointed to the third term on the Park and Recreation Commission, Recreation Advisory Commission. Next up, Resilient Community Advisory Commission, one 3-year term through 2028, and one applicant, Jacob Kohlhaus. I will entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we appoint Jacob Kohlhaus to the Resiliency Community Advisory Commission.
second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Sprank, second by Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel,
Aye.
Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Roussel,
Aye.
Resnick,
Aye.
Farber,
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0. Jake Kohlhaus is appointed to the Resilient Community Advisory Commission. Next, we have the Transit Advisory Board. We have one 3-year term through July 30th, 2027. Once again, we have one applicant, Gary Wernemont. I'll entertain a motion here.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we appoint Gary Wernemont to the Transit Advisory Board.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel,
Aye.
Kavanaugh,
No.
Roussel,
No.
Resnick,
Aye.
Farber,
No.
Sprank.
Aye.
We have a tie here, so in a vote, he's appointed to the, No.
By a point,
sorry.
because it would, as a tie, it would fail, so it could carry over and appear again on a future agenda.
Okay. All right, so we will carry the Transit Advisory Board over to the next appointment. All right, we have one more here. Zoning Advisory Commission. Here we have two terms, both through July 2028, and we have 4 applicants. So we will do one at a time again. So for the first term, if you, Adrian, if you would, please.
Wethel,
Matthew Mulligan.
Kavanaugh,
Matt Mulligan.
Roussel,
Matthew Mulligan.
Resnick,
Matt Mulligan.
Farber,
Matthew Mulligan.
Sprank.
Matt Mulligan.
All right, Matthew Mulligan is appointed to the first term. Second term, please, Adrian.
Wethel,
Patrick Norton.
Kavanaugh,
Patrick Norton.
Roussel,
Patrick Norton.
Resnick,
Patrick Norton.
Farber,
Patrick Norton.
Sprank.
Patrick Norton.
So Patrick Norton is appointed to the second term on the Zoning Advisory Commission. All right, thanks, everybody, for working through that.
We'll move on to public hearings. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting in person who would like to discuss one of the public hearing items, please approach the podium when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input for the public hearing you would like to speak to, and state your name and address. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function and state your question, or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input for the public hearing you would like to speak to. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Public hearing number 1 is request to rezone 1395 Washington Street.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Roussel, second by Wethel. Sheena, am I coming to you tonight? Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Kavanaugh, members of City Council. Sheena Moon, Associate Planner, standing in for Wally Wardemont this evening. So the request we have before you is to rezone property at 1395 Washington Street from a current C4 zoning to a C1 neighborhood commercial zoning. The primary catalyst for this rezoning is that the property owner is seeking to be able to utilize the first floor for residential use. Currently in the C4 zoning, residential is only permitted above the first floor unless otherwise legally non-conforming or previously allowed. So with this, this property is located, as you can see on the image here, at the southwest corner of East 14th Street and Washington, rather, excuse me. And as with rezoning requirements, we did notify all property owners within 200 feet of the subject site, which you can see the notification area on the image here before you. So this property has historically been utilized for, or zoned rather, for business use. Prior to 1975, it was a business district, and since 75 has been zoned for C4 downtown commercial. The property is just a little over 0.2 acres, and there's two lots total. One lot is currently undeveloped, and the other lot, which is right at the corner, currently has an existing 2-story building. The storefronts along this corner here have been utilized for commercial off and on, but especially in more recent history, there's been more of a demand, as we understand it, for residential, as the property owner tells us, versus commercial uses, and again, seeking to rezone to allow for residential on that first floor. Adjacent uses do include to the north residential, as well as commercial uses to the east, and also residential to the south and the west. The property is adequately served currently with both city sanitary sewer and water. There are mains in Washington Street and as well as along the alley. There would be no changes to that with this proposed rezoning request. Public services are adequate to serve the property. No exterior alterations are being proposed. And again, this property is primarily residential, and there's primarily residential uses in the vicinity, except for that property to the east. Again, the C1 zoning is common for corner lots, primarily in these mixed-use neighborhoods where you have kind of a corner store, something of that nature. Traffic patterns, we do not anticipate to change with this proposed rezoning. Technically, the C4, from C4 to C1 is technically a downzoning, so the C1 district does allow for less uses than the current C4 zoning district would. And then we'll just mention that with the capital improvements along 14th Street with that future overpass being proposed, there is potentially an impact that could happen with future development in this area, just something to note. So again, this is just a summary of what the C1 zoning district currently allows. The C4 allows for 58 permitted uses, and again, this is a down zoning. The uses highlighted there are uses that overlap with the current C4 zoning, so just a little over a handful of those. And again, the real primary purpose would be for that multifamily use on the first floor. We have not had any public input, either for or against for this project. The Zoning Advisory Commission did, by a vote of 5-0, recommend approval. So a simple majority vote would be needed by City Council tonight to move this forward. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you very much, Sheena. We are in a public hearing to consider a request from Ian Stormont to rezone 1395 Washington from C4 Downtown Commercial to C1 Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District. Do we have anyone here to address us on this item this evening? Seeing no one here. Anything virtually?
No.
No? All right, back to us then for any discussion. Ms. Russell?
Thank you. I think this downsizing seems to be a positive for the neighborhood and for the property owner. I think that C1 gives flexibility for the property owner in the future if they so desire, but really limits those choices to more neighborhood-friendly options, so I support that change.
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Anyone else? All right. Okay. Motion here is to receive and file and waive the 3 readings. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
The motion passes 6-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Russell.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Russell, second by Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 2 is request to rezone property at June Drive.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Russell.
I move to receive and file, and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Russell, second by Wethel. Back to you, Sheena, I believe.
Yes, I was just contemplating how I needed to change this.
Oh, Corey is there for assistance if
Forgive me.
need be.
New.
It's all right.
Thanks, Corey. If it's just loaded here, I can just grab it. Is that all? Okay. Okay, I think I got it here. I'm sorry. Thank you. Okay. Thanks. So this request is, hello again, Sheena Moon, Associate Planner. This request is to rezone a portion of property at the end of June Drive. So as we take a look here in the image here, we can see the parcel is the entire area outlined in green. It's approximately a 7-acre piece of property. It's currently zoned AG, agricultural. And the property owner is looking to build a home on this property. In the agriculture zoning district, you have to have at least 10 acres of land, and you need to have an active agriculture use in order to build a residential home as a accessory use to that agricultural use. So in order to be able to build a home on the property, they're looking to rezone a portion of this lot to allow for that. The area outlined in checkered imagery or checkered line here is the area that would be rezoned. And again, here's just a larger image of that. So again, the property is currently agricultural. This is at the end of June Drive. The site is currently undeveloped. Adjacent uses do include residential, both to the north and to the east. Those are city residential, and to the south and west, we have county residential. The property is adequately served by utilities, both sanitary, sewer, and water. Public services would also be adequate to serve the project. As I mentioned, the property is unimproved. And while single-family residences don't generally require a site plan review, the project did actually go before our development review team, largely to look at matters of how the end of June Drive needs to be handled. It currently just ends and sheet flows into the property, and so there would need to be some stormwater management that would need to happen there, as well as discussing fire access for the property and what other requirements might be required for that. So the applicant did go through that with our development review team. Again, all adjacent uses are residential, and we do not anticipate any major traffic impacts and/or pattern changes as a result of this proposed rezoning. So here's just a little chart to show you the agricultural zoning. These are the permitted uses in the two. You can see that there's just one crossover with the railroad and public or quasi-public utilities. And again, in order for this property owner to build a single-family home, they're seeking to just rezone that portion. That would allow for a lane to the home as well as a home setback from the property and the adjacent properties to the east there. We did receive one letter of support from neighboring property owners on Mella Drive. And we did also take this project through the Zoning Board of Adjustment. They had to request a special exception to allow a front yard setback of more than 50 feet from their frontage along June Drive. The Zoning Board did approve that contingent upon a rezoning approval. So the Zoning Advisory Commission did recommend approval of this project 5-0, or this rezoning rather, 5-0, and a simple majority vote would be needed for City Council to move this forward this evening. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Sheena.
Thank you.
We are in a public hearing to consider a request from Josh Ramler, Ramler Construction, to rezone a portion of the end of June Drive from AG Agricultural to R1 Single Family Residential. Do we have anyone here in chambers to address us on this item? Seeing no one here. Anyone virtually?
No, no input.
Thank you. All right. Back then to us for discussion. Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you, and Ms. Moon, if you...
Did you have your, I'm sorry, Krenna, did you have your hand up? Yeah. Oh, you can, feel free to come on up. Yeah. Yeah, if you'd like to address, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up. Yeah, thanks for letting me know. So, yeah, if you just name and address and let us know what your comments are, we'll listen.
I didn't have any comments. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, you're just saying hi?
Yeah.
Okay,
basically.
great.
No.
Wonderful. Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. So we know that Mr. Ramler is here, so thank you. Sorry about that. Sorry for the confusion, but thanks for coming up. Okay, Mr. Resnick.
I was just saying hi as well.
You are definitely not just saying hi. You want to
Okay,
say something.
so question is, how common is it then to take just a portion of this zone, and make it an R1? I mean, is there a reason to keep the other zoning there? Is it less expensive is there less taxes perhaps on property that's zoned as it is now? Or, I mean, it's more an education for me. What's the strategy here?
Sure. So we don't often see rezoning of just portions, but there are a number of instances throughout the city where we have properties that do have dual zoning or three zoning districts that overlap them. The zoning districts don't always run with the property lines, and they're not required to. So we do see instances of that throughout the zoning throughout the city. In this instance, the property owner was specifically interested in maintaining those portions of the property to agricultural. And so in that instance, we are moving forward their request as they've proposed it. And perhaps there may be, I believe that the taxes are tied to the use. So that'd probably be a question that'd be better answered by the county assessor. But with respect to our zoning requirements, if they wanted to do half, single family and half R2 or whatnot, we would look at those proposed uses just as we would with keeping it as agricultural.
Okay, I'm sure there are many reasons, and the property owners have their reasons.
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or need for discussion? Okay. And I'll just mention that, it's always good to see that there's support in the neighborhood when rezonings come before us. It is very helpful in making these decisions. And this one really seems like an appropriate rezoning to me, so looking forward to voting for it. Okay, motion here is to receive and file, waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Roussel, second by Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 3 is Unified Development Code Amendment on Restaurant Carryout.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Sprank.
I got a motion by Roussel. I'll give the second to Mr. Sprank. Back to you, Sheena. Thank you.
Yes, hello again. Sheena Moon, Associate Planner. So this request is a text amendment. This is coming from staff. We've initiated this request to modify to include a definition for carryout, and then also to modify the drive-in carryout definition that we currently have, as well as to allow carryout restaurants as permitted uses in the C2, C4, CR zoning districts, and then as a conditional use in the C1 neighborhood district. So this is really coming out of staff having received a number of requests for business owners that are interested in having a carryout restaurant. The code currently lumps carryout and drive-through together. So as we look at those two uses, they really do have different potential for impacts and different kind of demand as far as traffic and flows and such as that. So, and traffic flows and pedestrian and traffic flows, depending on the type of use. So staff has had a recent request for to allow a carry-out restaurant on the 1400 block of Central Avenue. And so this was kind of the catalyst that further moved this along for us and kind of brought to our attention that we need to perhaps reconsider how the code addresses this specific use. So as I mentioned, the code currently lumps the drive-in and the carry-out together. In the C4 downtown commercial zoning district, the UDC requires a conditional use permit for the drive-through / carry-out restaurant use. And carry-out restaurants, not including drive-ins, are currently permitted in the C5 zoning district. So we do have a number of different ways that the code identifies restaurants. We have indoor restaurant. We have restaurant carry-out, not including drive-through. These are things that we're going to be looking at as we go through our Unified Development Code update, trying to clean up some of these uses. But this was a more immediate option to be able to allow for, again, this carry-out use in our especially walkable neighborhoods. So when we look at this carry-out versus drive-in, we really wanted to evaluate the two uses. Carry-out restaurants typically require significantly less space. They don't require vehicle queuing that you would need for a drive-in or drive-through restaurant, especially with delivery windows. Typically, drive-in restaurants are larger. They're usually physically separated. You usually maybe have the whole lot, whereas carry-outs can usually be smaller, walkable locations, maybe occupying just a single storefront versus an entire property. Carry-out restaurants also can be part of a mixed property versus drive-ins, which again are usually part of more of a single use on a property. Carry-out restaurants, customers will often drive and park, walk, and pick up food and or maybe work in the area. And drive-in restaurants, again, are typically having substantial parking lots and are more auto-oriented type of a business. And then again, carry-out restaurants have really changed over time. We've definitely seen this coming out of COVID, where people really wanted to be able to, walk in, grab, and then be able to depart. So versus them having to go in, place an order, wait, and then be able to depart. So that's another just discussion point that we talked about. So what this text amendment would do is it would create a definition for our restaurant carryout separate from the restaurant drive-in. So we're really creating two separate definitions for those uses, whereas now, again, they're lumped together as one. It would also allow a restaurant carryout as a permitted use in the C2 and the CR and the C4 zoning districts, as opposed to a conditional use. So that would require a conditional use permit currently. It would also allow restaurant carryout as a conditional use in the C1 zoning district, which is consistent with restaurants in those districts currently, in that zoning district currently. And then restaurant drive-in and carryout would continue to be allowed as it currently is in the C3, the LI, the HI, and the MHI, which are our industrial zoning districts. So those would remain as they currently are. With that, I'll state that the Zoning Advisory Commission did recommend by a vote of 5-0 that this be approved. Obviously, a simple majority vote would be required by the City Council this evening. And with that, I'm happy to answer any specific questions that you may have. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Sheena. Well, we are in a public hearing to consider a request from the City of Dubuque to amend the Unified Development Code to include a definition for restaurant carryout and modify the definition of restaurant drive-in / carryout, and to allow for restaurant carryout, not including drive-in, as a permitted use in the C2 Neighborhood Shopping Center, C4 Commercial Downtown Commercial, and CR Commercial Recreation Zoning Districts, and as a conditional use in the C1 Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District. So do we have any public input on this item? Please, come on up.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having us, and thank you for bringing this to the forefront. My name is Trowana Robinson, I own the property 1486 Central. I am considered a serial entrepreneur. I have revamped that property many times, but my most recent business venture is going to be a food store. Really, I wanted to get the teens an opportunity. I have a lot of teen kids to work. So I was going to offer snow cones and lemonade. And as luck will have it, last weekend I went to the farmer's market and they had a lemonade stand out there selling food, and we didn't have one in Dubuque, so I will be the one and only so far. So I'm excited about that, and when I reached out to zoning and health department, they told me about all this good fees, and this was on the agenda already to kind of get the property zoned. And I just appreciate the time for you guys to consider this. It would definitely help us out, and all for entrepreneurship and more business and walking space on Central.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Truana, for your comments. Anyone else? Okay, nothing virtually?
No?
Okay, back to us then for any discussion. Mr. Resnick?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to thank all the people involved here. This simplifies, clarifies, and cuts regulations like people want, like entrepreneurs like. My question to you is there any connection between carryout and delivery? Do you need to be a carryout restaurant for people to deliver your food product to others, or is that a separate issue?
So the code doesn't currently address delivery as a specific type of use. So delivery could be a component of a drive-in, of a carryout. We wouldn't limit that based on the carryout definition.
So the delivery can come from a sit-down place as
That's
well.
correct.
So that doesn't matter. All right, thank you for clarifying that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, Mr. Sprank?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm excited to support this because this is what kind of my long-term vision of how I want to see Central is, where there's all these little businesses popping up that are doing their thing. And I hope that this is the start of what can help a lot of smaller businesses get off the ground, where it is just, you come in, get what you need, you get out. So I'm excited that that we've kind of found a way to make this work. So thank you.
Thank you. Any others?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Farber?
Yeah, thank you. And I agree with what's been said, that this really makes a lot of sense. And as you know, I am a restaurant owner, and I am just applauding the energy and the enthusiasm for more entrepreneurs to provide some restaurant services. And I think it's just a real great addition, not only to Central, but to the other downtown corridors and other areas within the city. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, I agree, this makes total sense, and I appreciate the fact that this got the attention of the planning staff to be able to go through and make a change like this and suggest this change. I think it's very forward-looking, as Mr. Sprank kind of pointed out, and I really do appreciate that. Even though it took a couple times of looking back to see that this was happening over and over again, I think it's a great example of being very responsive, so thank you. All right, motion here is to receive and file and waive the 3 readings, so Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel?
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Sprank.
Got a motion by Roussel, second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 4 is grant of storm sewer utility easement to Switch Development at JFK LLC.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Wethel?
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolutions.
Second?
Got a motion by Wethel, second by Resnick. Mike, please, or Corey, please, sorry. Mike is
City
virtual.
Engineer Gus Ahoyas is recommending City Council approval of the grant of storm sewer utility easement to Switch Development at JFK LLC for private storm sewer and riprap over city-owned Northwest Arterial right-of-way. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Well, since we just heard the exact same words, we are in a public hearing to consider what was just read out loud in the approval of a stormwater utility easement for Switch Development. Do we have anyone here in chambers to address us on this item? Seeing no one here, anyone virtually?
No.
Thank you. All right, back to us for any discussion. Mr. Resnick?
Thank you. Could you tell me, it's called a private storm sewer? I mean, it's not owned by the city, it's going to not to our public services, but somewhere else, I guess. That's my question. What is a private storm sewer? And specifically, what is this private storm sewer like? Thank you.
Good evening, Gus Ahoya, City Engineer. So this is a storm sewer that will be leaving the Switch Home property, which is that little mall across from the gas station there by Steve's in that area. So it's a private storm sewer system that's on the mall property, and it's going to exit through the northwest arterial just to drainage ditch. So it's something that we required.
I see. So I guess, I mean,
It's
it
there-
does eventually get into the public system.
It does, but it's theirs to maintain and build.
I see. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Motion here is to receive and file and adopt the resolutions. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel. Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 5 is approving the amended and restated lease between the City of Dubuque and Viterra USA Grain LLC.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we receive and file and adopt the resolutions.
Second.
Motion by Sprank, second by Wethel. Corey, please.
City Engineer Gus Ahoyas is recommending City Council approve the amended and restated lease agreement between the City of Dubuque and Viterra USA Grain LLC Commercial Street, aka East 7th Street lease. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Corey. We are in a public hearing to consider. The City Council approve this amended and restated lease between the City of Dubuque and Viterra USA Grain. Do we have anyone here to address us on this item? Seeing no one here. Anyone virtually?
Nope.
Thank you. All right, back to us for any discussion. Mr. Resnick.
Mr. Soares, could you very quickly just tell our viewing public what are the changes in brief and how, if at all, it affects our citizens here?
Gus Ahoya, City Engineer. So this is a property that they're currently leasing from us. It's approximately 9.2 acres. So in 27, they want to be able to decide if they want to reduce it because they don't need all the property. So they're going to reduce it by 1.13 acres. So there'll be a reduction in lease payments. And I think it's about 40-some thousand.
So that's a good business practice for them. Do we have that property to lease for others if they wish to?
That's right.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Any others? All right. Motion here is to receive and file and adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel. Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 6 is resolution approving a development agreement with Plastic Center Incorporated.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Roussel, second by Wethel. Corey, please.
Economic Development Director Jill Connors is recommending City Council adopt a resolution approving a development agreement by and between the City of Dubuque, Iowa, and Plastic Center, Inc. for the redevelopment of 408 West 5th Street. Key elements of the development agreement are as follows. 1, developer to make a capital investment of approximately $3.2 million to create 9 new residential rental units and restore the facade of the structure. 2, city to award a downtown rehabilitation grant in an amount not to exceed $35,000 for costs associated with the restoration of the building's facade. 3, city to award a downtown housing creation grant in an amount not to exceed $90,000 or $10,000 per unit up to 9 units. 4, city to award a 15-year tax increment financing incentive in the form of semi-annual rebates. The tax increment financing incentive is estimated to not exceed $325,000. The development agreement requires developer to accept applications from prospective tenants with housing choice vouchers issued under the U.S. Housing and Urban Development Section 8 voucher program or a similar program that are otherwise qualified prospective tenants. Developer shall install security cameras on the exterior of all buildings on the property and register said cameras with the Secure Dubuque Personal Surveillance System. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Corey. We are in a public hearing to consider city council adopt a resolution approving a development agreement by and between the city of Dubuque and Plastic Center Incorporated for redevelopment of 408 West Fifth Street. Do we have anyone here in chambers to address us on this item? All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right,
No.
nothing virtually. All right, back to us then for discussion. Mr. Resnick.
Thank you very much. So my question about the downtown housing creation grant, I know there's got to be limited funds. And my question is, do you know how much is left? How do we publicize this? Because of course, housing is very important to us. And are funds refreshed on July 1? Is that how that works? Or just curious about the program itself and whether others might partake of this program to increase our housing.
We have Economic Development Director Jill Connors on the phone.
Yes. Hi there, Economic Development Director Jill Connors. Yes, there will be additional funding added to that pot of money on July 1st, and City Council has approved funding for that program for quite a number of consecutive years since before I came to the city 11 years ago. It's been a really good program. In the past, we were it was oversubscribed when I first started at the city, but in recent years, there's been a larger allocation to the program. And so we have been fortunate enough to support any of the projects that come to us. We do keep track. I would have to get that information to you subsequent to this meeting, but we do keep track in our department of the balance of that fund. But we do have funds available at this time. And having said that, to your question about how do we advertise that, we do have a developer's guide that's been published and sent out from our communications office. And in probably the next meeting or the following, our office will be bringing to you, let's say, an amended and restated menu of housing incentives. You had approved incentives in September of 2022 to support housing of various types and locations in the city. And we'll be bringing that back to you with some small amendments to those offerings, just to make sure it's clear to you and to the public what's on the table. Hopefully that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. And I noticed that in this particular project, the developer has put substantial investment into that. Now, that's part of what this program calls for. Is that correct? Is there a formula?
There's not, well, for the $35,000 rehabilitation grant, it's a matching grant. And so that's a one-to-one expectation. For the housing units at $10,000 a unit, there's not a requirement, but based on what it takes to create a new unit, it's by far more than one-to-one. It's probably closer to, 10-to-1 or 15-to-1.
Right. So very good information. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Ms. Weffel.
I'd just like to say thank you. And reinvestment in a space in downtown Dubuque like this is going to be meaningful. So happy to support it and looking forward to seeing it finished.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, I'll just echo that. This looks like a great project. So thank you very much for the work that's going into it. And this is one of those development agreements that just makes a ton of sense, especially in an area where there's really quite a lot of action happening right now, right there on Bluff Street. And this is a building in a prominent spot. So really appreciate the work that's going into it. Okay. Motion here is to receive and file, adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Weffel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 7 is proceedings for public hearing on the issuance of not to exceed $500,000 sewer revenue capital loan notes, interim financing, state revolving loan fund program, planning and design loan, tracks line sanitary sewer reconstruction project.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we receive and file and adopt the resolutions.
Second?
Okay, I got a motion by Sprank, second by Resnick. There is just one resolution. I heard an S on the end there, but we only have one here to deal with, so we have that motion. Corey, please.
Chief Financial Officer Jennifer Larson is recommending City Council approval of the suggested proceedings for a public hearing on the issuance of not to exceed $500,000 sewer revenue capital loan notes, interim financing, state revolving loan fund program, planning and design loan, trackline sanitary sewer reconstruction project, the proceeds of which will be used to fund the trackline sanitary sewer reconstruction project. The state revolving capital loan notes will carry a 0% interest rate for up to 3 years and have no initiation or servicing fees. The loan may be rolled into an SRF construction loan or repaid when permanent financing is obtained. The proceedings have been prepared to show as a first step the receipt of any oral or written objections from any resident or property owner to the proposed action of the council to authorize the form of loan and disbursement agreement and issue the notes to the Iowa Finance Authority. A summary of objections received or made, if any, should be attached to the proceedings. After all objections have been received and considered, if the council decides to enter into the agreement and issue the notes, a form of resolution follows that should be introduced and adopted entitled Resolution Taking Additional Action with Respect to a Sewer Revenue Loan and Disbursement Agreement and Authorizing, Approving, and Securing the Payment of a $500,000 Sewer Revenue Loan and Disbursement Agreement Anticipation Project Note, IFA Interim Loan and Disbursement Agreement. In the event the council decides to abandon the proposal, then the form of resolution included in said proceedings should not be adopted. In this event, a motion merely be adopted to the effect that such proposal is abandoned. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Corey. We are in a public hearing to consider city council approval of the suggested proceedings for a public hearing on the issuance of not to exceed $500,000 sewer revenue capital loan notes, state revolving loan fund. And I'm going to leave it there. Do we have anyone in the chambers who would like to address us on this item? Okay, anyone virtually?
No.
Thank you. All right, back to us then for any discussion. Yeah, Mr. Resnick.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sahoy, is he still here? Well, then Corey can answer the engineering questions, and I'm sure.
We'll see.
Yeah, okay, well, the next four are all about these sewage revenue capital loan notes. And so, we're taking extraordinary steps to make this happen. The next one is the old mill, but I would love to have someone with a narrative wrapping these up together at the end, maybe, so we could tell a story about all the work that's been done and what's going to be happening in the next year or so. So just something to think about, perhaps, because it's not particularly about this item number 7, but it's all 4 coming. So at some point, if you wouldn't mind.
You bet, or I will ask a couple of the staff who are on the phone may be prepared to answer that question better than I can.
All right, thank you. So, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think just to add real quick to what you're saying, Mr. Resnick, I think basically what you're saying is the next 4 items here have something to do with working through our sanitary sewer and making sure that we're building out the sanitary sewer to meet the needs of the community. Especially, we had long conversations about this during our budget hearings. I think the overall story is, what you kind of asked for here, if I were to sum it up, is that we said we were going to pay for this and get it done, and this is how we're doing it, is that we are now going to be putting these, getting these loans in places and putting these loan notes out, and the next few items are all about this. A lot of the same verbiage that you're going to hear, a lot of the same words from Corey in the memo, but I think it's all going to be explaining that we are now putting the wheels in motion to get these projects funded so that we can then go and do the work. So hopefully that helps a little bit to explain the narrative that you were asking for.
It does. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, I want to talk about the extraordinary steps and the extraordinary effort that's going into this, and just make that a point that a lot's going into this. This is very important to our community, to our council, and obviously to staff. And I think your comments emphasize that, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Resident. Mr. Sprang.
Mr. Mayor, I just might give a little bit more information on that if possible.
Absolutely, Mike.
Mike Van Milligan, City Manager. So the mayor and city council has budgeted between 2025 and the end of 2029, $131 million for improvements to our wastewater system. And over $80 million of that is dedicated towards the sanitary sewer pipes. That's in addition to the millions of dollars you've been spending over the last several years. And so the mayor and council has made this a priority. It's demonstrated it's a priority by the allocation of a significant amount of resources, and the projects are all moving along. As a matter of fact, under construction right now is the Old Mill Lift Station Phase 1, and total projects over $40 million. And you're seeing some of the other phases here as far as the allocation of resources and moving the projects along. So be happy to answer any questions if I could.
Great, thanks, Mike. Mr. Sprang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know that we talked about starting this whole process almost 4 years ago at goal setting, making it a priority that we knew the Catfish Creek was going to be a problem. We had to figure out how to pay for it. Unfortunately, this is how we have to pay for it. But I'm not shocked at the numbers that we're having to do with as much sanitary sewer issues that we're experiencing on that area. So I'm going to approve all of these that are going to be coming up, but it's just we have to fix our sewer system. Otherwise, we're going to have bigger problems. So it is what it is, sadly. So, thank you.
Well, and I would add too that these are the things that cities go through. You know, you have the infrastructure like this is what we have to work with. So we definitely have, there's always work to do, and this is getting that work done. All right, any other questions, discussion? Okay, motion here is to receive and file, adopt this resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 8 is proceedings for public hearing for the issuance of not to exceed $15 million sewer revenue capital loan notes, state revolving loan fund program, Old Mill Road Lift Station Project Phase 2.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprang.
I motion that we receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Sprang, second by Wethel. Corey, please.
Chief Financial Officer Jennifer Larson is recommending City Council approval of the suggested proceedings for a public hearing on the issuance of not to exceed $15 million sewer revenue capital loan notes, state revolving loan fund program, the proceeds of which will be used to fund the Old Mill Road Lift Station and Force Main Project Phase 2 project. The state revolving fund loan will have a variable interest rate of 2.84% plus a servicing fee of 0.25%, a 20-year term, and will be abated from the sanitary sewer fund. The proceedings have been prepared to show as a first step the receipt of any oral or written objections from any resident or property owner to the proposed action of the council to authorize the form of loan and disbursement agreement and issue the notes to the Iowa Finance Authority. A summary of objections received or made, if any, should be attached to the proceedings. After all objections have been received and considered, if the council decides to enter into the agreement and issue the notes, a form of resolution follows that should be introduced and adopted entitled Resolution Taking Additional Action on Proposal to Enter into a Sewer Revenue Loan and Disbursement Agreement. In the event the council decides to abandon the proposal, then the form of resolution included in said proceeding should not be adopted. In this event, a motion merely be adopted to the effect that such proposal is abandoned. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Corey. We are in a public hearing to consider city council approval of the suggested proceedings for a public hearing on the issuance of not to exceed $15 million in sewer revenue capital loan notes, state revolving loan fund to fund the Old Mill Road Lift Station and Force Main Project Phase 2. Do we have anyone to address us on this item? Seeing no one? Anyone virtually?
No.
No? Back to us then. Any discussion or
Mr.
question?
Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Farber.
Yeah, just want to make a note that it is quite impressive that the loan itself in total is only 2.865%, which is very, very low at this point in time. And so I think the opportunity to get this loan, I think is noteworthy. And that's, I think, the benefit of the state revolving fund loan process as well. So thank you very much, Jennifer. And I'm in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farber. Any others? All right. The motion here is to receive and file, adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 9 is proceedings for public hearing for the issuance of not to exceed $3,600,000 sewer revenue capital loan notes, interim financing, state revolving loan fund program, planning and design loan, Old Mill Phase 3 project, Catfish Creek sanitary interceptor sewer system, Middle Fork.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second by Wethel.
And a motion by Resnick, second by Wethel. Corey, please.
Chief Financial Officer Jennifer Larson is recommending City Council approval of the suggested proceedings for a public hearing on the issuance of not to exceed $3,600,000 sewer revenue capital loan notes, interim financing, state revolving loan fund program, planning and design loan, Old Mill Phase 3 project, Catfish Creek sanitary interceptor sewer system, Middle Fork project. The state revolving capital loan notes will carry a 0% interest rate for up to 3 years and have no initiation or servicing fees. The loan may be rolled into an SRF construction loan or repaid when permanent financing is obtained. The proceedings have been prepared to show as a first step the receipt of any oral or written objections from any resident or property owner to the proposed action of the council to authorize the form of loan and disbursement agreement and issue notes to the Iowa Finance Authority. A summary of objections received or made, if any, should be attached to the proceedings. After all objections have been received and considered, if the council decides to enter into the agreement and issue the notes, a form of resolution follows that should be introduced and adopted entitled Resolution Taking Additional Action with Respect to a Sewer Revenue Loan and Disbursement Agreement and authorizing, approving, and securing the payment of a $3,600,000 sewer revenue loan and disbursement agreement anticipation project note, IFA interim loan and disbursement agreement. In the event the council decides to abandon the proposal, then the form of resolution included in said proceeding should not be adopted. In this event, a motion merely be adopted to the effect that such proposal is abandoned. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Corey. We are in a public hearing to consider city council approval of the suggested proceedings for a public hearing on the issuance of not to exceed $3,600,000 in sewer revenue capital loan notes to fund the Old Mill Phase 3 project. Do we have any public input on this item? Seeing none here. Anything virtually?
No.
Thank you. Back to us then for any discussion. Discussion was already had at the previous 2 items that are related to this item. Motion on the table here is to receive and file, adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Motion passes 6-0.
Public hearing number 10 is proceedings for public hearing for the issuance of not to exceed $3,400,000 sewer revenue capital loan notes, interim financing, state revolving loan fund program, planning and design loan, Old Mill Phase 4 project, Catfish Creek sewer shed improvement, South Fork.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Wethel.
I move to receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second?
Motion by Wethel, second by Resnick. Corey, please.
Chief Financial Officer Jennifer Larson recommends City Council approval of the issuance of a not to exceed $3,400,000 sewer revenue capital loan notes planning and design loan, state revolving loan fund program, the proceeds of which will be used to fund the Old Mill Phase 4 project, Catfish Creek sewer shed improvement, South Fork. The state revolving capital loan notes will carry a 0% interest rate for up to 3 years and have no initiation or servicing fees. The loan may be rolled into an SRF construction loan or repaid when permanent financing is obtained. The proceedings have been prepared to show as a first step the receipt of any oral or written objections from any resident or property owner to the proposed action of the council to authorize the form of loan and disbursement agreement and issue the notes to the Iowa Finance Authority. A summary of objections received or made, if any, should be attached to the proceedings. After all objections have been received and considered, if the council decides to enter into the agreement and issue the notes, A form of resolution follows that should be introduced and adopted entitled Resolution Taking Additional Action with Respect to a Sewer Revenue Loan and Disbursement Agreement and authorizing, approving, and securing the payment of $3,400,000 Sewer Revenue Loan and Disbursement Agreement Anticipation Project Note, IFA Interim Loan and Disbursement Agreement. In the event the council decides to abandon the proposal, then the form of resolution included in said proceeding should not be adopted. In this event, a motion merely be adopted to the effect that such proposal is abandoned. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request mayor and city council approval.
Thank you, Corey. We're on a public hearing to consider the city council approval on the issuance of not to exceed $3,400,000 in sewer revenue capital loan notes to fund the Old Mill Phase 4 project. Do we have any public input on this item? Seeing none? Nothing virtually?
No.
All right, back to us then for any other discussion. Mr. Resnick?
Yes, Mrs. Sahoyas, one more question, and that is, Mr. Van Milligan mentioned that we've already started with the old mill station. In fact, it started quite a bit ago. It seemed that the pictures show that we've had quite a lot of progress. So is now with this being completed, is the financing in line, and what are the next steps for this project? It's not shovel ready yet, obviously, but are we pretty far along with this?
Gus Sahoya, city engineer. I'd say they're 15% completed. So it's all going to be completed, scheduled right now, December 18th of next year. So the projects they were talking about is phase 2 of the Old Mill Station, which is getting the force main from the lift station at Old Mill to the treatment plant. That's the one we just awarded maybe 2 meetings ago or last meeting. That was for $11 million. And at that meeting, I should have said that we designed that in-house because you were asking the question. Mm-hmm. I do have a memo that I was supposed to get to Mike about. We did design that phase 2 going from the lift station to the treatment plant. So then phase 3 and 4, or the Middle Fork project, which will eventually be able to get extra capacity out to the Middle Fork, which is where Plastic Center is, and all that development there where they're potentially going to build a new YMCA. And then the South Fork will extend to the south, to Sipel Road to the south, and that will extend that capacity so we can develop all that undeveloped property out there on Sipel Road into the west of Dubuque.
That sounds great, and it's a huge project. With this tonight, will the financing be in line for us to do the whole project?
The finance will be in line for all the engineering work that's going to be either in-house or what we hire out. Like last meeting, we talked about hiring consultants, those RFPs. So that'll be all in line so we can get that design. In fact, part of the projects, the phase 3 and the 4, the Middle Fork and the South Fork project, we're starting to do, like I said at the last meeting, we'll be doing the surveying. I think we have 54 plus or minus letters going out to residents that own the property on those 2 forks. So we'll be able to start surveying that and getting all the design work so that consultants can take place and get that design so we can have it ready to bid next year.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or discussion? Okay. Motion here is to receive and file, adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
We'll move on to public input. At this time, anyone participating in the meeting may address the city council on the action items on the agenda or on matters under the control of the city council. For all in-person attendees, please approach the podium and state your name and address when the mayor asks if there is any in-person input. For all remote attendees, please enter your name and address in the chat function or state your name and address over the phone when the mayor asks if there is any virtual input. If more than one participant would like to speak, then city staff will determine the speaking order of the participants. Individual remarks are limited to 5 minutes, and the overall public input period is limited to 30 minutes. Under the Iowa Open Meetings Law, the City Council can take no formal action on comments given during public input or that do not relate to the action items on the agenda.
All right, we welcome public input.
Good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Noah Riley, and I am owner of The Goose at 920 Main Street. The Goose is a unique space, part bar, part music venue, part tea house, and part yoga studio. Since opening in August 2024, we've worked hard to become a hub for creativity, connection, and community. We host everything from live music and comedy to workspace meetups, classes, and fundraising events. We've even had the honor of hosting Mayor Kavanaugh and his band for performances on more than one occasion. Our goal has always been to be a positive part of the downtown community and contribute to revitalizing Upper Main. We purchased the building in May 2024, excited to invest in this area and bring our vision to life. On July 2nd of last year, we had FEH Design visit our property for a consultation. During that meeting, they informed us that they had purchased the adjacent building at 902 Main and would begin construction in October. They briefly mentioned that a section of our roof line might need to be raised to meet code, something we acknowledged at the time, expecting further communication that never came. Fast forward to March 26th of this year, the president of FEH Design, Kevin Eiperly, visited us and informed us of a party wall agreement, one that we had not seen or been made fully aware of at the time of purchase. While it was mentioned in the title opinion, the implications of the agreement were not clearly explained. It turns out the agreement had been signed by the previous owners of both buildings in January 2024, months before our purchase. At no point was it put forward to us as something that could result in substantial financial obligation. Kevin stated that a fire protection wall between the two properties was required and that we would be responsible for half of a $22,000 cost. Since then, we've received no formal documentation or breakdown of that expense, despite repeated requests. On June 11th, I went to FEH's office seeking answers. In a short meeting with Kevin, I was told that the city had required even more work and that the cost had risen to over $38,000, of which we're allegedly responsible for half. Again, I asked for property documentation and again received none. What's more, I was never given a fair opportunity to seek my own contractor or bid to validate or compare costs. FEH simply told us that the work would be completed by their contractor and that our half of the bill would be due 3 weeks after completion, without transparency, negotiation, or any chance to explore alternatives. It wasn't until late Thursday afternoon, after FEH was informed that KWWL was preparing a news story, that they finally provided a basic cost estimate, not presented in a formal invoice from the contractor, and some notes from a city meeting that provided little detail. The timing makes it clear these details were only shared under the media pressure. What's even more frustrating is we've received no contact or guidance from the city about this project's impact on us, despite the significant public funding supporting this private development. Here's where I need to raise my deepest concern. This private project, which is receiving substantial public assistance, including a $150,000 subsidy from the city of Dubuque, a $35,000 facade grant through downtown tax increment financing funds, and estimated tax rebates of $11,500 annually, estimated to not exceed $115,000, is imposing serious financial and operational burdens on us as their neighbor. In addition to the unexpected costs, we are also suffering from the impact of their ongoing construction. The sidewalk access from 9th Street to our business is completely blocked, affecting foot traffic and visibility. Our exterior emergency exit to the back of the building now opens directly into a fenced construction zone, which presents a potential safety hazard. And the construction itself generates dust and debris that require us to clean our entire space top to bottom on a daily basis to remain sanitary. Despite all this, we've remained committed. We're trying to take it in stride, but it's difficult to feel supported in our efforts to build community downtown when we're left alone to bear these costs and consequences. So I'm asking today, is there anything the City Council can do to support us, whether through financial assistance, mediation, or access to the same kind of resources being provided to our neighbors. We want to continue to be part of Dubuque's growth. We love this city, but we need help to weather these very real, very immediate challenges. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Noah, for your comments.
Hi, I'm Brooklyn Williams. 250 West 6th Street, apartment 501. I believe I'm well known by all of you on this council, the mayor, council. I come here on behalf of the Goose. I'm asking for compassion, clarity, and fairness, level playing field. You want to help downtown grow, then let's do it. Let's be fair. Let's have a level playing field. Not someone come in and take over a building that, since I got here in October 2019, empty, and all of a sudden someone bigger than someone smaller trying to come in new and help and give an unfair playing field. No knowledge of that, and no fairness, no compassion, no transparency. I'm asking for fairness on behalf. I'm seeing some businesses close. I've seen others empty. Where are we going to truly revitalize downtown, or are we just speaking empty words? Let's put some meaning behind those words for fairness, compassion, honesty, and complete transparency, and not trickery, please. That's why I ask of the council.
Thank you, Brooklyn, for your comments.
Good evening, City Council. I am Natalie Heck, 1005 Garfield Avenue, and co-owner of the Goose. Really, I just want to support Noah in what he said, and also bring attention to good communities are built on good neighbors, and our real intention here is to be a good neighbor and to have that reciprocated. And it allows for some time to be bringing attention to not North Main, but Upper Main. I talked to friends who are business owners on Upper Main, and along with this bigger issue, we would just like to see more foot traffic and, things like this, larger construction. It happens. It's important for our city to develop. It's also important to communicate with each other. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Natalie, for your comments. Anyone else tonight? All right, well, thank you, everyone, for your public input. Do we have anything virtually I should ask?
Just Clark Schultz, 2925 Burlington, did submit written input for action item number 7. That's been uploaded with that agenda item.
Great, thank you, Adrian. Okay, we will then move on to action items. Just a note for, I see Mr. Resnick waving at me over here. I'll just note for anybody who gave public opinion. As Adrian pointed out in the paragraph that she read, the city council is not legally allowed to address things that are not on the agenda. We can only talk about the things that are on the agenda. So if anybody's wondering why we don't have conversations when people come to us, that's the reason why. But public input generally is given to provide the opportunity for conversations in the future is what I would say. So, thank you. Okay, action items, please. Thank you.
Action item number 1 is proposed ordinance change to Title 7, Chapter 5, Article A, Section 10, related to fireworks.
Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Russell.
I move to receive and file, and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Russell and a second by Wethel. Who am I going to? Corey, thank you.
Chief of Police Jeremy Jensen and City Attorney Corona Brumwell are recommending City Council approval of changes to Title 7, Chapter 5, Article A, Section 10, related to fireworks. During the recent State of Iowa legislative session, Senate File 303 was signed by Governor Reynolds, which limited local government ability to restrict the use of fireworks on certain dates. Per Senate File 303, a municipality cannot limit the use of fireworks on July 3rd from 9 a.m. until 10 p.m., July 4th from 9 a.m. until 11 p.m., and December 31st from 9 a.m. until 11:59 p.m. The current City of Dubuque ordinance prohibits the use of fireworks at all times within the corporate city limits of Dubuque. To address this, the City of Dubuque ordinance needs to be changed. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Corey. I'll kick us off here on this one. So, Chief, I'm going to need you to help us out a little bit, and Krenna, probably you too. I'm just going to start off by saying I'm going to have a really tough time voting for this. And I need to learn a little bit more as to why we as a city want to make it even more, like we're expanding the time that the legislature gave us. Now, I understand by just like a half an hour in certain directions. But I'm just going to say, I have never once received a call from a resident of Dubuque saying, I need you to allow more fireworks. Never once have I ever gotten that phone call. But I'll tell you what I do get, and they are upsetting phone calls, actually. I get calls from parents of autistic children. I get messages, long, drawn-out conversations from parents who are really upset that they are having to go through the trauma and watch their child go through that trauma. I get calls from family members and people who know veterans who are traumatized by somebody setting off ridiculous amounts of fireworks next to their home for days on end. I get, and you know, we can talk about people, we can also talk about pets. I get a lot of calls from pet owners. I never once have received a call that says you need to give us more fireworks in the city of Dubuque. I get calls about things like, why are we selling fireworks in the city of Dubuque when we're not allowed to use them? It's because the state legislature forced that on us. They made us do it. They made us, as a city, allow for the sale of fireworks, even though I'm not hearing from residents that we want this in our community on a regular basis. And yet we have it. There are a lot of people who set off fireworks on the 4th of July. A little less so on New Year's Eve, but around the 4th of July, I mean, it is essentially a war zone in certain parts of town. I have a really tough time going even further than what the state is now forcing on us, because the state legislature is forcing every city in Iowa to allow fireworks in places where a lot of residents don't want them. So with all that said, the proposal before us here is to actually make it just slightly more expansive. But you have your reasons for it, so I'd like to hear what your reasons are, because I believe it has to do with enforcement by the police department.
Yeah, Jeremy Jensen, Chief of Police. Plain and simple, that's what it is. So July 3rd, I guarantee nobody in Des Moines thought that we shoot consumer fireworks on July 3rd. Our fireworks are still going on, the consumer fireworks, well after 10 p.m. on July 3rd. If you're around the city on July 3rd, as soon as they end, the whole town goes up. It starts going up, boom, 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 everywhere on that. Strictly July 3rd, because the amount of people that attend it, it is an all hands on deck for the police department that night. You throw into just the amount of people that are down on the point, the traffic control at the end of that goes well into, and then this year we've talked about the construction that's going to be well past midnight before we get anything out of there. It's purely that, and we will get hundreds of calls that night for fireworks. It's a little confusing when you have at 10 o'clock shut off, they're still going off consumer-wise. And when I say consumer, our show that happens.
Thank you.
And I should clarify that, because they are consumer fireworks, anything that's fired off. But yeah, so we'll get, if we end at 10, we'll get 100 calls for service that we will not get to until after midnight. And quite honestly, they'll be done from that group. Now we're enforcing on groups that they're saying, hey, this happened after 10 too. After 10 o'clock, we also saw this going on. 10:01, we will get calls, and we won't be able to get to them, just purely because of what we have going on throughout the city that night. And again, we're just trying to deal with what's going on with the events. So to extend it slightly to get past our show, essentially. Again, not knowing exactly when it'll end, 10:25, 10:30. They sometimes start at 9:45, 9:50. It's all reliant on our longest times of the year, daylight, that we have, so they start it well after dark. And so that's why we're asking to extend it beyond that. like I said, we won't be able to get to it. We also add to frustration of people saying, hey, how come you are not showing up to this call right away? I just called on fireworks, and we just don't have the resources to do that on top of every other call for service that's going in that literally that's our busiest night of the year. And so you'll deal with driving issues, we'll deal with drunk drivers, we'll deal with fights, we'll deal with all these other things that are going on that will take priority over that. And that's where it really runs into. And that's why I'm asking that, kind of to be fair to a degree with what's being thrown to us as this. And again, so people, trying to, I know it'll create some frustration, but also lend into the frustration side of it, saying, how come they're not showing up at this point in time? It's just, we're in the middle of a catch-22 with this, and that's kind of one of those things that it makes it tough for us to enforce and be able to do that. Now, along that, as I said, I'm asking, there is hours, voluntary compliance fire in it, and we've already started enforcing this year because by state code, it allows June 2nd sale of fireworks. You're starting to see those being sold, and they're already being fired. Last night we heard it, and we did enforcement action on multiple places last night for that. So we're already doing that. But yeah, it is a time of year that, and everything you said, Mr. Mayor, is absolutely true with the effects on people, and asking for people to be neighborly and understand who their neighbors are, and understand that people may have to go to work the next morning, and you're firing them off late at night and keeping people awake.
Well, and thank you, Chief. And I didn't even mention what it puts you all through as the police department. I mean, you have so many calls you have to address. And what you just laid out for us, I don't know if people fully understand the work that you and the entire police force have to do on the 3rd of July, just to make sure that everybody's safe as a gathering. But then, yeah, and most people are behaving well, but you've got some folks that behave badly and do the things like you said, like drunk driving and things like that. It's extra challenging for you on that night, and to add this to it is unfortunate. All right, I'll open it up for some other discussion in here, and then we can, you might want to stay close, so I'm going to guess we're going to have some questions for you. Mr. Spring.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To echo so many of your comments, I mean, in my neighborhood, people have already started lighting them off, and once it gets dark, they're just going off already. I've gotten used to it over the decade plus time I've been in the neighborhood, but there are so many people that are frustrated by this, and I always keep saying, call the state, call your state elected officials, because they're the ones that have to change this. And I've always said don't want to give any more ability for people to light off fireworks, because it is just incessant. It goes on the whole month of July in my neighborhood. It just doesn't stop. And I've gotten used to it, where I've gotten nearly tone deaf because of it, because I can't stop it, because I almost feel it's a waste of your time, the police's time, to call them to even do anything, because by the time they're already off, the kids or adults or whatever are already gone. They're not going to track them down. So I am frustrated too with the fact that I don't want to give any more literal ammunition to somebody who's making more trouble in my neighborhood. So with that, I pass. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mr. Spring. Ms. Wethel.
I'd like to know what you think if we were to petition our own personal state legislators regarding what would be I'm not saying personally for you, but what would be the best ease of policing on the 3rd and 4th in the city of Dubuque? Do you have feedback for us that we could share with advocacy about what would make those days easier for your force?
It is a very complex thing, because there's a lot going on that day. And again, July 3rd, don't know of many other people that fire it off. As you know, what compounds our fireworks event is the trains, which we talked about, which block all of our crossings, like one did, except all but one for 90 minutes last year at the end of the fireworks. So that causes some problems. So there's things that go along with that. As you're talking about fireworks, I think, when they created you have to sell, there's no you can't shoot. I think it's very confusing to people. You have to sell them. There's everywhere. How come you're not letting us shoot them? That's very confusing. I think on these rules, I don't think, again, they don't take into account these you shall do these things, don't take into account what local wants. And that causes some issues. Like I said, it puts us in the middle of some things that, again, as the local side, and as you all have said, I don't know of people that are saying, hey, let us shoot these, come on. They're not calling you for that, and to say that. So that's some of the issues that I think on their side they need to understand at the state level, that, what it puts us in the middle of things that, and again, that our community may not necessarily want.
Thank you. And I guess I would just say that it's a situation in which I'm elected so directly by Ward 4 residents to make decisions for them. And, also Mr. Sprank represents an area that is highly affected by the 3rd of July. I just think it's an example in which our state legislature, I hope moving forward, would consider that we're kind of where the rubber meets the road as local elected officials, to listen directly to our police chief, our fire chief, to learn what works best for our own community. The fact that we have fireworks on the 3rd, and we have trains, and we have a river that needs to be policed as well. I just think that there's so many details that affect this specific situation. It's a great example of what local control could do in our ability to help our residents come to a place where nothing's going to be perfect, don't get me wrong, but that we could have a more impactful view. So I appreciate your work. Thank you very much. And we need to keep talking.
Thanks, Ms. Bethel. Let's go Mr. Resnick and then Ms. Rousseau.
Mr. Mayor, I had a private question with our city attorney, Brumwell, about that very issue, and she had some good things to say for us that might be instructive. If you wouldn't mind repeating something that we talked about.
She looks like she needs a reminder for what that might have been.
Reminder.
Because my question is, why do we have to do anything with this?
Okay. Yes.
What if I voted no? I mean, what would the effect of that be?
So if we don't amend our ordinance, what we are left with is a prohibition that would remain every day of the year, but for the 3rd and 4th of July and December 31st. It would be unenforceable on July 3rd, 4th, and December 31st, but for outside of the hours that are in the state code. Because since we can't prohibit them on those dates, we're preempted. Enforcement would happen under the state code then, so it would fall back to 724, 727, 727. And so it doesn't necessarily change much from an enforcement standpoint, but for easing the burden on our staff to coincide with the reality that our local fireworks shows on July 3rd and 4th. And then if violations were issued under the state code, we would be putting the work on our local police force, but the revenue then would be going to the state as opposed to the local level. Whereas if we have the hours contained in our local ordinance, any revenue generated from the issuances of violations stays at the local level.
And Mr. Mayor, so the thing is, we'd be asking our police force to do something that's impossible, to be going out and stopping, it'd be wasting their time. And it also, we're telling them that, I mean, we have to be truthful, and we cannot stop on July 3rd and 4th the fireworks. Now, not that I'm anti-fireworks, but I'm anti, bad neighbors, I guess, who know that, they're kind of destroying the neighborhood peace and quiet. And there are people who need peace and quiet. And Mr. Mayor, the mayor talked about several groups. And, some of these fireworks are incendiary devices that I have no idea how they can be legal. And they have, you hear an M80. Is all fireworks, are all fireworks legal? I mean, I think there are some that are still so monstrously huge that we don't sell them here in Dubuque, but can they blow them off?
Yeah, to answer your question, so there's a lot of things that are like, and the fire chief will tell you this, that make us cringe. You know, but this code does not supersede other codes, criminal mischief, reckless use of an explosive. They are an explosive. They are classified that. If you are, well, another one, I think I put this in the memo, child endangerment. You know, and my own personal experience, I watched somebody hand an M80 to a 4-year-old who ran out into the street and threw it. You know, luckily it didn't go off in his hand. You know, but I saw this years ago. But there is that. We still have that ability to enforce under other codes. These are elevated codes. These are not the simple misdemeanors we're talking about. These are codes that go higher. So if you're causing damage to your neighbor's property, and we do follow up on that the following day, we've seen things where people come out and like, oh my gosh, look at my roof. You know, there's things, and we follow up on that as a criminal mischief. The reckless use of explosive where I shot it towards a neighbor's house, or the fun Roman candle fights that people are doing and shooting it all, fun, at each other, and they're bouncing off the neighbor's house and things like that. We do enforce that. And so we do have other codes that amp that up. Like you said, they are an explosive, and there is a reckless use of an explosive code. So if somebody's using it recklessly, we can address that. And that's the ones where, and if you look, and I agree, I mean, Dubuque is compact, our houses are close. It doesn't take too far of a stretch to get into that, where you start to cause some of that, where the reckless use or the criminal mischief for things like that, or again, where kids are shooting them off, and it is crazy when you see things like that.
And thank you for that. And I appreciate City Attorney Brumwell saying that, even though, we might not like it, but it's the way it is. We have to just face that and help our police force talk about the enforcement and do the enforcement that the chief has just mentioned, the really important stuff, and not pick up, fireworks that are totally legal to be shot off in the state of Iowa. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
So I have a follow-up, Krena, because I'm not understanding the logic here. So what you said is, if we don't create our own ordinance, we simply have, our ordinance stays on the books, but it's unenforceable, which means we simply have to follow the state law, which means our police department would have to follow the state law. So how does that create extra work for the police department?
It doesn't create the extra work, it creates the extra calls that they can't respond to, which creates the dissatisfaction with the police department and the response in the community, because it's logistically not feasible for them to respond to all of the calls. I probably didn't clarify this. So on the 3rd, the 4th, and December 31st and January 1, our ordinance wouldn't be enforceable. So if by chance the police department can respond to a call related to fireworks, it doesn't create any more work for them, but it's going to be issued under the state code then, and any revenue for that work that they're doing is going to go to the state, as opposed to where if we have a local ordinance, the revenue for that work, for that ticket, would come to the city.
So I appreciate that, but we wouldn't enforce during the times that the state allows, correct? I mean, so we wouldn't necessarily be creating any revenue for the state in that situation.
Yes, between the hours. We have to allow them between those hours. Our prohibition would remain outside of those hours, so it's really the differential.
Which is allowed by state law.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's the differential in the hours is where that happens.
Mr. Mayor, would it help if I can, some of our enforcement stuff we're doing now outside of this, I think, so we have our patrol division has put together a task force, and one of the other things we do, so under the current code, and the way it's written, so any code, is the way it's written, is that we have to, whoever is shooting the fireworks is the one that get in charge. So technically, if I have a 15-year-old shooting him off, that's the charge, goes to juvenile charge. But one thing that we do under the city ordinance allows us to do is the noise ordinance outside of these hours, which we can issue a municipal infraction. We've actually been doing that, which goes to the property owner for allowing the noise. And we've been doing that this year already with multiple cases issuing to the property owner or the person in charge of that under the municipal fraction, under the noise ordinance. and outside of those hours, not under the fireworks ordinance.
Got it. Thanks, Chief. Go ahead, Ms. Rosal.
Thank you. Well, first of all, as many of us have said, it's frustrating that our state has caused us to make these changes by deciding for us what's best for our residents. So if we go ahead and make these changes, to me, what's important is that we have a fantastic communications department. What's important to me is that our residents know what has changed, why we had to make that change, and what they can expect. So they aren't they need to know if they make these calls to you that, hey, sorry, this is now allowed. So I think it will be helpful for the residents to know those things up front. Not that I want to encourage more fireworks on these, new opportunities, but I think it's important for people to know what to expect and when they can call and when they can't call. So I don't know if Mike's on the line or Corey, maybe do we have a communications kind of plan that we would, or maybe Jeremy?
Yeah, I can answer that. We do. We have something ready to go pending what you approve. So ready to go tomorrow, and then we're also going to do some other things. That's from the citywide, and then also there will be some things from the police department on what to expect and expectations.
That's just so important. Thank you.
Is the state law forcing us to make this ordinance change?
It's not forcing us to make a change, no. But like I mentioned, we could leave our ordinance as is. It just would not be enforceable during the 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. on the 3rd, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. on the 4th,
Right.
and 9 a.m. to 11:59 on December 31st, and then midnight to 12:30 on January 1.
Well, and in addition, Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
Mike Van Milliken, as you pointed out at the beginning of the discussion, is our recommendation goes to state law requirement. So they are not forcing us to make that additional hours on that evening that we're recommending.
The 10 to 11 p.m. on the 3rd.
Yep.
And
Understood. Thank you.
Yeah.
I got to be honest with everybody. I don't think we should send this message as a city council. This is my position. I don't think we should send a message that it's okay, that we're okay with this. And I'm just going to speak for myself here. I'm not okay with the change that's been made. I wasn't okay with the change of allowing the sale of fireworks within the city and confusing everybody about why that's allowed and all those things. I just don't think we as a city should send a message that we concur with the state legislature, because I don't, and I don't think I can vote for that. I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. I appreciate the discussions that we're having. I think that we cannot, as a city, enforce the prohibition during the times that the state has told us we can't. So we wouldn't be doing that. I don't see us doing that, even if we don't change this ordinance. But I think the message should be that this is a state issue. Your state legislators have done this and put us in this situation, and they should be the phone call that you make to be able to talk about this. As a member of this city council, I don't want to be a contributing member to allowing something that that residents have clearly told me that they would rather not see in the city of Dubuque. And that's why I'm struggling with this. And I understand the challenges you're going through. And I want to make it really clear to you, Chief, and everybody on the police department, that my voting against this tonight has nothing to do with trying to make your life harder. I think your life is going to be what it is in this situation, because we really don't have any control over what this is going to be. I think we are going to be stuck in this situation. You are going to be working with all the other things you're going to be doing. And you just said basically that, and you've been saying this the last few years, very honestly and openly, you simply can't enforce the prohibition of fireworks during this time because you have so many other more important things to do. It really is up to our neighbors to police themselves in this case. And unfortunately, too many folks are not doing that. But I just can't be a part of voting along with this when the state legislature has put us in this position that I don't think most of the people that I speak with in Dubuque want to be in. So that's my position on this, and I appreciate the discussion.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Farber, yes.
Yes, so I have a question for Jeremy. If by chance we do not vote this proposed ordinance, is there a communication ready to go that would further explain the police perspective?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Farber. Okay, back one more round here, and then I think we can begin to move on. I saw Ms. Roussel first, Ms. Wethel, and then Mr. Resnick.
So I too am quite frustrated by things coming down to us. But I do feel that the state does have that ability to tell us what we need to do. Is there no other way that we can send a message that this is not what our community wants? I don't feel comfortable having an ordinance that we know is unenforceable. That doesn't make sense to me. Even though I don't agree with it, but I feel that I would have to support it.
Thank you, Ms. Roussel. Ms. Wethel.
Actually, Ms. Farber asked my question about communication, so I appreciate that no matter the decision tonight, there will be communication that goes out to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. And so I agree with Ms. Roussel. The fact is that this is a receive and file motion B, motion A. If we don't have 6 votes for this, then we tonight decide not to do this. And we, maybe 1 or 2 people will decide that we're not going to be in compliance with state law. So I get it that we have difference of opinion and probably more what our local citizens want. We're here and we understand the situation. But we also send a different message that we are okay with going against state law and just by this, with a minority of people voting just to not do the 6-0 requirement. I think we're stuck in this position. No one likes it. And this is, I just remember we had a recent employee recognition dinner where Mr. Van Milligan went up there and said, you know what, if the state enacts a law that is, lawfully enacted, it is truly the law of the state, unless there is an immoral problem, which he would resign if he was asked to do that. But short of that, he was of the opinion that we need to follow state law. I agree with that. I thought it was a powerful speech. Mr. Van Milligan, I don't know if you want to be dragged in on this, but your speech at the employee dinner, the recognition breakfast, was very powerful. And I don't know if you want to step in or you would just like us to talk amongst ourselves.
Well, Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, I do want to say something, even though it's not quite what Councilmember Resnick was saying, but similar. And thank you, Councilmember Resnick, for first of all attending the employee appreciation breakfast, which all the elected officials did, but also listening to the presentations that were made. So thank you for that. But I feel like the awkward position we've put you in, and I support it. I support the chief's recommendation, which is to extend the hours of allowance even beyond the state law limit. But kind of the awkward position we've put you in is if it was just an ordinance that gave the exact language of the state law, it sort of is what it is. The state gets to tell us what to do. That's their right. Unfortunately, there's this thing, home rule in the Constitution, that they constantly ignore. But that's our reality. Kind of the awkward situation we've put you in is by extending the hours beyond what the state law says. So I really think there's 3 choices here. One is to vote the ordinance down, and then just during the hours the state says we can do it, we're still, if people can do it, we're still not going to be able to enforce it. The other is to pass what's been recommended. And the third is to amend the ordinance that's been recommended to just cover the state law hours. So that legitimately, if some resident asks you, why did you pass this ordinance, assuming it got passed, it's because the state law required it, and it required these exact hours. So I really think you have three choices. But yeah, unfortunately, the state gets to tell us what to do, even though they're supposed to be home rule as it appears in the state constitution.
Thank you, Mike. So just one quick thing. I get the point that Mike is making about the choices we have. I do agree that we have those choices. Where I will respectfully disagree with Mr. Resnick, and I think something Mike just said too, is we are not being forced to change our ordinance. The state has not required that of us. We're not breaking any laws by doing that. We are just, their law would supersede ours. So we are not, they didn't tell us that we have to change our ordinance. They just told us that we can't enforce anything outside of this. If that is still the case, kind of as you're looking through things, I think that is based on what I'm understanding in the law. I don't believe we need to change that ordinance, and I don't think we're breaking any laws by essentially voting against this, for instance. Go ahead, Krenna.
The only thing that we are adding that is not in our ordinance currently related to usage, so right now it's just a prohibition on usage. The one addition that we have put in here for the hours is that the consumer fireworks can only be used on the real property of the person using them, or the real property of a person who's consented to the use on their property. And we do then say they can't be used at all on public property, including public street, public right-of-way, sidewalk, park, parkway, trail, or open space. Now, that being said, what we have in the alternative to that is, of course, a blanket prohibition. Doing the ordinance as recommended by the chief would get you those additional, or would leave those prohibitions in place during the times the fireworks are allowed, if that makes sense. So on the 3rd and the 4th, it would be limited to your own property or property where somebody consents to it, and it would not be allowed on any public property with this change.
Thank you for that information.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, Ms. Farber.
Yeah, just one other question. What are the times, maybe I missed that in the conversation, Jeremy, the times that we are extending, or the times allowed per what Krenna just mentioned?
Just on July 3rd, from extending it from 10 to 11, and then just on December 31st from 11:59 till 12:30 a.m.
So
on the 1st. Yeah.
Yeah, so basically an hour and an hour and a half, period end?
Just an hour and 30 minutes. So hour on July 3rd and 30 minutes on December 31st into January 1.
Oh, yeah, because 12:30, yeah, got it. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Schmeck.
Krenna and maybe Chief. So our current ordinance basically, besides these other dates, you're not supposed to light off fireworks, which people still do anyways. But apparently we didn't include that they couldn't be lighting off fireworks in the public street, the public right-of-way, a sidewalk, park, parkway, trail, or an open space. So if somebody does start doing that, we now have, I guess, this ordinance gives you a little more tools, shall we say, or a little more teeth to restricting people. Is that kind of what some of this is coming about? Because I'm still not liking this, because I feel like if we approve it, we're just giving people carte blanche to light off fireworks regardless. So
related to parks, right now, I believe there's a prohibition for park use. So parks are currently covered. The right-of-ways, sidewalks, open spaces, other areas outside of actual park boundaries, I think are probably covered by the blanket prohibition. Now, based on this change in state code between the certain hours that the state allows, that prohibition wouldn't exist in those spaces. So people would be able to be out, say, on a sidewalk between 9 a.m. and 10 p.m. on the 3rd, or 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. on the 4th, kind of a thing, using their fireworks. What we have proposed would limit use to the two spaces, either your own property or private property where someone has given you consent.
Okay. So, go, Ms. Weather, please.
Just one other question out of curiosity. As it relates to the fireworks that are let off at the Dubuque Golf and Country Club, would they no longer have to get a permit on the 4th?
Display permits are still required. So there are different definitions. There's consumer fireworks and display fireworks and things like that.
Okay.
Display fireworks still require permit.
Thank you.
So based on the conversation we're having now with these extra conditions that, that point is very well made and I appreciate it very much. Because this does actually provide us with a little bit more enforcement mechanism that I think could be very, very helpful since we have to allow people to use fireworks during these times. I'm still having a problem with the extra time. I would actually vote for this tonight if someone would suggest that we stick with the times that are offered within the state law. I simply do not want to be part of allowing extra based on what we have. So if that would be something that the council would agree to, I would actually vote for this ordinance tonight to keep us in line with what the state ordinance is, or what the state law is, but then also to be able to primarily to add those conditions that were just outlined by Krenna. Yeah, Ms. Rousseau.
So I made the initial motion. I would be in support of changing the ordinance to match exactly the state conditions. How would I do that with do I need to change my motion or?
Okay, so let's see here. So what we have on deck right now is the motion to receive and file and waive the readings. So I think we would need to make a motion to amend the ordinance under consideration. And so it would be amended, and thankfully I did this right. I bulleted it out, so this is easier. In where it lists July 3rd from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., the 11 p.m. would become 10 p.m. July 4th would stay the same, so that section, that bullet would not change. And then December 31st then would become 9 a.m. to 11:59 p.m.
And July 3rd is also 9 a.m. to 10
July
p.m.?
3rd, July 3rd would move from 11 p.m. to 10 p.m. And the one December 31st that moves to January 1, instead of reading December 31st, 9 a.m. through 12:30 a.m. on the following day, January 1, would simply become December 31, 9 a.m. through 11:59 p.m. because we are not required to allow on January 1.
Okay, so let me see if I have that correct. I move that the requirement that the ordinance be amended to state July 3rd from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and December 31st from 9 a.m. to 11:59 p.m.
And I'll second that motion.
And to be, that ordinance to be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed, be suspended.
So I would say let's do the amendment first.
Okay.
So just do the amendment and determine whether the amendment language has votes necessary. And if the amendment does, then the motion to waive would happen on the ordinance as amended.
Okay. So my motion is to amend the ordinance as stated earlier, July 3rd, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and December 31st to 9 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. only.
Seconded by Wethel.
Point of information, Mr. Mayor. The question is, does that first motions that they made, do they just disappear now with this?
Assuming that the original motion maker and the second are willing to essentially withdraw or amend them, yes.
I just wanted to do the right
Yep.
thing. Thank you.
May I have a question as well?
Yep, Ms. Farber?
Mr. Mayor? Yeah, thank you. So you mentioned July 3rd, you mentioned New Year's Eve. You did not mention July 4th. And the question I have is at the club, if they start at 9:30, will they be required to be completed by 10 o'clock?
The hours within the state code on July 4th are 9 a.m. to 11 p.m., and that's what we've included in here, so we wouldn't have to change anything for the 4th.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Hear me?
But it also doesn't, if somebody has a permit, it allows to go.
Oh, yes,
Because
correct.
the display events will have permits.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, so we're clear that that we're talking about consumer fireworks use by individuals within the community, not the permitted events like the country club or the J.C.'s fireworks downtown. Yeah.
That was my question.
Okay. Okay, are we clear on the amendment language? So before I ask for a roll on that, Brenna, do you have anything else? No? Okay. Before I ask for a roll on that, I just want to make it really clear in what we're talking about here. And I'm doing this just, I think, to state my position just very clearly. This puts us in line with the times that would be unenforceable anyway by state law. However, it also provides extra conditions that we have added as a city to be able to allow for some enforcement. For instance, not using fireworks in public spaces and public parks, not using them on right-of-ways like streets, and not using them in your neighbor's yard without permission, essentially. And that to me is a good added benefit to this. Very unfortunate choice that we have to make as a city. I'm going to make it very clear. I do not like that we have to allow fireworks during these times because residents tell me they do not want them during these times. So I'm just saying that out loud before I vote yes on this particular amendment and then yes on this particular ordinance to keep us in line and in fact provide our police department with a little more enforcement capability. Okay, so we have amendment language as stated by Ms. Roussel and seconded by Ms. Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please, for the amendment?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
All right, so the amendment passes 6-0. So now we can move on to the original motion that was on the table.
As amended.
And you would, so this is the motion as amended. So the motion remains. It's the motion as amended, and this was originally moved by Ms. Roussel and seconded by Ms. Wethel, and this is to waive the 3 readings with the ordinance as amended. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0. Thank you for your assistance on all that, Krenna. Oh, I'm sorry. Please, Ms. Roussel.
No, I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second by Wethel.
Got a motion by Roussel, second by Ms. Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Action item number 2 is Fire Headquarters HVAC Replacement Project Award Public Improvement Project.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we receive and file and adopt the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Sprank, second by Roussel. Corey, please.
Fire Chief Amy Scheller and Project Manager Jim Bosley are recommending City Council award the public improvement contract for the 2025 Fire Headquarters HVAC Replacement Project to Giese Sheet Metal Company Incorporated in the amount of $451,500, which is 30% below the engineer's estimate, through the adoption of the attached resolution. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Corey. Any discussion? 30% below is pretty great. That's a nice thing to hear. And, you know, this is another one of those projects that we have been talking about extensively for a long time. We talked about it in the budget presentations. We talked about it in, actually, even before the budget presentations. This is something that's been in the works for quite a while. So I'm glad to see it moving forward at this point. And it's always nice to see it come in 30% below the engineer's estimate. Okay. Motion here is to receive and file, adopt the resolution. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Action item number 3 is South Point Subdivision Park Plan for approval.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file and approve.
Second by Wethel.
Motion by Roussel, second by Wethel. Corey, please.
Parks and Recreation Director Marie Ware is recommending City Council approval of the South Point Subdivision Park Plan provided by Dubuque South Point LLC. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission reviewed the plan at their recent meeting and unanimously recommended City Council approval of the plan. The naming of the park will be submitted to the City Council after the Commission has engaged the public into the process over the next month. The fiscal year 26 capital improvement budget contains $200,000 as required by the development agreement. The funding is sales tax 20% for the construction. The funding will be reimbursed by the South Point Housing Renewal Area TIF. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Corey. Any discussion? All right, hearing none. Motion is to receive and file and approve. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Action item number 4 is Five Flags Civic Center Management Agreement between the City of Dubuque and Global Spectrum LP DBA OVG approval.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and approve.
Second.
Motion by Resnick, second by Sprank. Corey, please.
Parks and Recreation Director Marie Ware is recommending City Council approval of the Five Flags Civic Center Management Agreement between the City of Dubuque and Global Spectrum LP doing business as OVG. At the April 7th City Council meeting, the City Council was informed of the selection of OVG and that a contract would be negotiated for City Council approval. Park and Recreation Director Marie Ware will be making a presentation. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Corey. Marie, feel free.
Take me a moment to get it up here. All right, there it is. Do I wait for the mayor, or just go ahead? Go ahead, okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Marie Ware, and I'm the Parks and Recreation Director. This evening, we'll talk about the RFP and the journey that we went on in order to bring your selection and agreement to you this evening. The history for Five Flags is that the Five Flags Civic Center opened in 1979. It was under city management from 79 to 2004, and the then staff and city council had said, is there something better or different than we can do? And that's when ASM Global was selected, and they actually were called SMG. So if you've been here long enough, you might remember SMG was selected at the time to be our operations manager. So they have been managing the facility for over 20 years under the same management agreement. And what this allows us to be able to do is to bring it up to date. If you think about the entertainment industry and all the things that have happened in 20 years, it's a very different industry at this point in time. So we needed to be able to look at the terms of the agreement, establish new goals that bring us into the future. And as you recall, we similarly did this when we went through this process not very long ago for Grand River Center, who also had a 20-year agreement that we went through this process of selection. As I said, the industry has changed a great deal, and so if you think about entertainment, if you think about sporting events, competitions, all those types of things that are held within the center are very different, and how the industry works also is very different. People's tastes have changed, so it was a very good time for us to be able to do this. Also, you had within your city council priorities, and this is under the diverse arts, culture, and parks and recreation goal area, was to be able, in our management and progress projects that we do as a department, we had the Civic Center management selection. We outlined the steps that we would go through an RFP process, go through the negotiation and the agreement. So you already had a prior a memo that talked about that we were moving the OVG to negotiations. We went through the RFP process, so tonight is related to that agreement. In order to be able to do an RFP, which is a request for proposals, we have a committee. That's the process we go through with any city RFP. On the committee was myself, as well as Jared Charland, who's our project and facilities manager, Corey Burbach, your assistant city manager, Jason Lehman, our assistant city attorney, Don March within our purchasing and safety coordinator, as well as Keith Ray and Julie Kronlagi, who are with Travel Dubuque. The RFP process is a process that is a different process than if you were bidding a capital project. In a capital project, you go for, who's the cheapest? What's the lowest pricing within an RFP? It's about being able to look at what your overarching goals are, what your scope is, and choosing the best firm to be able to do the job. So when we did that, we outlined that we wanted, just as it says on the screen there, the qualified professional management firm capable of providing that full range of comprehensive management services for us with a well-proven track record, including marketing and full-service operations of a civic center and events facility in comparable or larger market. So in other words, we needed someone who is extremely qualified to be able to manage our facility for us. The RFP process contains extensive operational goals, and these all relate to that overarching goal that I just shared. What you see on the screen is really highlights of what those are. Actually, if you looked within the RFP, you would see there are several pages that are our goals and objectives very clearly defined about what we were looking for in a firm to be able to do this management for us. It also outlined the scope of services that we wanted. All of these items here relate to your city council goals and those overarching goals, not just about diverse parks and recreation and fun things to do within our community, but it also relates to efficiency of our operations. It relates to the financials and making sure that all of this is done well and done well in a financial market. So when it came to the RFP process, we had two different firms that put in proposals. So we did send it to numerous places across the country. It's a more limited number of firms that actually do this at the level that is needed, but we had two firms that put in proposals with us. We then took the proposals that each of those two sent independently. Each of the different committee members scored that, and the scoring criteria was in the RFP, so each of the firms was well aware of what was in and what we were going to be looking at when we were looking at their proposal. We offered a tour of the facility. We also interviewed them in person as well. So we did an initial scoring without any of us talking to each other to come up with who we felt was the top scoring firms. Then, like I say, we did the interviews, and then we also re-evaluated them again after that. They also had an opportunity to tour Five Flags as well, and both firms came and did that. So we took them everywhere. Front of house, back of house, everywhere. So they saw the good, bad, and the ugly of the building. The scoring criteria that we used were directly related to what was in the RFP. So when we said we wanted these things, this is what we're looking for from a firm to be able to do, we're very serious about that because we connected our scoring to that. We also engaged a third-party reviewer to be able to come in, so an industry expert. Some of you that have been on the council long enough will remember Bill Kruger, who was with CSL International, who helped us with the studies related to Five Flags. He consulted with us and assisted us in reviewing the proposals of Grand River Center and also the negotiations, and was also involved this time as well. That's good because they're, as much as I try and be an expert, it helps to have that next level expert when you're looking at these things and when you're really thinking about what's the right things within the negotiation and how do we get what we really are desiring out of that. So he was involved in that as well. So as we went through each of those steps that I talked about, the different steps, all on each step, and as we went along, we were all unanimous that OVG was a top scored firm. So with that, then, what was the strategy that they came to us with? So when they made their presentation, as well as within what they laid out for us, each firm did this. So OVG did it, as well as VenueWorks did it. And so when we were comparing, we were looking at their strategies of how they were going to meet the goals that we needed to have achieved. So tonight I'll talk about OVG because that's who we're here to talk about. When they looked at their strategy, they were the one that really connected their strategies with the goals that we were looking at the most. One of the things that was very, very important is the bookings, because your events and all the things that you hold there is really related to who you go out and work with in order to be able to get the bookings, to get the events, to be able to bring that variety of either entertainment, sports, whatever it so happens to be. And they connected that strategic booking and scheduling with an event strategy as well. And then you layer on that as a company, they have partnerships related to the touring companies. They have promoters that are, and it says 16 different regional and national promoters, as well as those family show promoters and producers as well. So that network is what helps you to be able to bring the types of things that we'd like to see here within our community. And like I say, that was a real area of emphasis of being able to bring that together. Later on in the presentation, what you'll see is that strategy is then hooked into what we have as our revenue incentives. So in other words, we're connecting the dots all the way through to the end of when you see your agreement of how that's connected. They also really laid out a good strategy of cross-venue programming. So how you could be able to work between Grand River Center, Five Flags, and/or it might be that if it doesn't fit in one or it isn't quite the right fit, then you automatically have another place that you can offer up that may fit better to what someone is looking to be able to do. They looked at and shared about staffing opportunities. So initially in the proposals, they laid out about how certain positions could be shared between the two venues, creating real synergies between those two venues. They still operate in their own way. Each of them still is a convention center and the other one's a civic center, but yet it's like connecting with the strategies that make the most sense. So each of these different things, these are, like I say, just an overview. They're very important to us. The aggressiveness of the sales and marketing, the revenue generation, that partnership driven. They really talked a lot about partnering with different groups and organizations within our community, and they have proven that out, obviously, with some of the work that they've already done. So why OVG? OVG is a full-service venue management company as well as a hospitality company. And so there's obviously two elements that go along with when you come to a venue, you want the event to be good, but you also want those other hospitality services, the food, the concessions, all the other types of things. You want it to be a full package when people engage within our facility. As I said, they really looked at working with the local and regional organizations, and particularly if you think about Five Flags, there is such synergy of being able to work with Dubuque Main Street. Now we have Millwork District close by, and we have the Port of Dubuque close by. We have a lot of businesses. We have all the different neighborhoods in the downtown neighborhood that really play into this. In addition, we also have the hotels and the restaurants that are all here. And so one of the things that we heard, for example, when we had the volleyball that grew from one facility into the other, is how much all those visitors, and I think you hear it as well, they really like that you can just, boom, you have this restaurants right there, it's walking distance from here, you can do this, you can do that. So there's a number of things. You can go down to the museum. All of that becomes a part of that package. And so they really showed us how all of that can be interconnected. And once again, when you look at one of those qualitative incentives, then you'll see how we reconnected that as well. A big part about what they did was talk about a sales strategy. And that's also a really important part of this, whether it's sales is a whole lot of different things in an event venue. And so being able to connect that strategy with the marketing strategy is a real key of being able to make this work very well. They also really shared about when they have a sales team, their first thing they want to do is work on our story. What's our story about Five Flags? And that's like really thinking about that, because that story is those things that really draw you into a facility about what it's all about. Then being able to look at our brand. What is our brand? What is our brand for the future? Not your brand right now, but our brand for the future. And then taking all of that, working with sales and marketing, and being able to pull that all together to be able to have sponsorships, look at other revenue streams, all those kinds of things, and then putting that into practice and going out there and getting after it. Those relationships that we're talking about really is a bigger part of that as well. It's like, what are the relationships you can have with those hotels or with those restaurants? How can you make it so that you connect people, or that there's package things, or you name the thing. Not my area of expertise, but you can just see how this can all come together for us. They've been working with us in order to be able to start thinking about the future. Like, what is the future when we do this project with our $23 million? When we do that, what do we do? And what are the types of things that will work well with the revenue side of that? So in other words, what we build will actually help the revenue. They are a part of a regional network, and this map just shows you, here we are with Dubuque, here are other venues that they have out there that are, if you think about that routing I was talking about and being able to bring events, if someone is at Sioux City, you pop on over here, you can do a show there, you can get on the routing schedule to be able to go here, and then sometimes they go on to some of the other places as well. And so it really makes that go well. So they have venues in Des Moines, and you can see those on there: Sioux City, Coralville, Waterloo, and of course we have the Grand River Center, in addition to several others that are throughout the Midwest. What this does is it also makes it to have a regional network in order to support each other. So one of the things that I saw throughout our transition for Grand River Center is right in the beginning, there's no way to have everybody on that you need right off at the bat, right at first. And so when they talk about on here about shadowing, about talent and what they do, they share talent between all of these venues. There might be the venue in Waterloo that's a little bit slow when you really need an extra chef. Or if you need an events person to come in because you're having a really huge and you're going to fill your whole place, that way you don't have to hire a whole nother person, you just borrow from someone else. It also makes the opportunity to be able to do something that we have Treaty Oak Revival coming up, and they're having that show also in another OVG facility. So one of the Five Flags staff members is going to go down, preview it, see how they run it, see how it runs and everything. So when it comes here, they can help to make sure it's smooth, see how that operations runs, and really makes it go well. They are dedicated and they are leaders in the industry. So one of the things I've found is that their team is very accessible from the absolute top of the organization all the way through to our local people here. So from day one, we've always had the people working with us that we've had Senior Vice President Sher Garnett, who was here with us when we had the Grand River Center agreement, the district manager that's over in Des Moines, Carrie Jackson, who has been with us, Ryan, our Boniface, our general manager, has been working with us as well. And Ryan will be serving as the GM for both facilities. So he'll oversee both, but there'll definitely be a lead person that will be a part of Five Flags. But that professionalism is something that he can bring up within the Five Flags organization. He is, just to be able to share, he is a certified venue professional. He has over 20 years experience. So we're very lucky to have a very experienced GM that's going to oversee the facility as well. But like I said, this company is not something where it's like you don't see the other people within the company. I was able to meet Peter Luco, who is the co-chairman of OVG Stadium and Arena Alliance, when he was in Dubuque, because he's also part of the Fighting Saints organization. And so, you know, that's someone who took time while they were here to be able to make sure that we could meet and that I knew who he was, and if I ever needed anything, you know, just let him know. This evening we have Jeremy Husling that's here, and he's the district general manager for OVG that will be overseeing as a district manager here now. Because his expertise is more in these event centers. He's actually from St. Louis and works with an ice center and a music park that's down there. So we'll introduce him here in a bit. He'll be directly working with our account. They will assign a new district senior VP once we get through all the transitions. We're working through all that. So it's a deep bench that comes as subject matter experts that'll be working with us throughout the time. One of the real things when we talk about industry leaders that's really important is the communications, and that's number 2 on the list that I put up there. And that's been one of the strong suits that we've had with OVG is whether it's the phone call, the text, the whatever. Many of you know I work really odd hours and quite often on weekends, and it is not unusual for me to text and Ryan's texting me back going, here's your answer, you know, or he'll be like, FYI, you need to know this about what happened this weekend, pipe broke in the parking ramp, which did happen, and that sort of thing, so that we always know what's going on, but also you've seen him as a communicator here at the council level as well. That is a strength of the organization. So down to the brass tacks, what's in this agreement? Most of what I'm going to share is the financials. There's a lot of other pages within this, but most of the time this is the part that everybody really wants to know. What we've created is an initial term of 5 years with a renewal potential for another 5. The management fee that we negotiated is $105,000 per year. What that means is that's what we pay OVG just to manage the facility. That helps to get us these people that help us out, the district managers, all those kinds of things, and the expertise from the corporate office, which is well worth it. That also is subject to the CPI each year, so that's outlined in the contract. Just as a comparator, because some people would be like, well, how does this relate to the other agreements that we have? Schmidt Island Development Corporation has paid $105,545 this year for the management of the Schmidt Island management agreement, which includes the I'm-On Arena. So it's like really neck and neck with that. And then OVG is currently paid $153,000 a year management fee for Grand River Center. So it's a little bit higher. The next thing that's a part of the agreement is the event revenue incentives. So as I shared earlier, these are the types of things where it's like it connects to those goals. So what we set out was they have a benchmark of being able to meet $1 million in event revenue. That means the types of things you're paying for your tickets, all those things that goes into that. If they go over that 1 million, which means you'd have more events, that means more activities, more people coming through the doors, all those kinds of things. If they beat that, then they get 10% incentive over that benchmark. So just as an example, what that means is if you're 100,000, so if you're 1.1 million, 100,000 over, then they earn 10% of that, or $10,000. And that's paid to OVG for meeting that incentive. What was negotiated is that the revenue incentive will never be less than $1 million, but we have the opportunity as time goes on, because of course with an agreement that's 5 with an additional 5 potential years, depending upon, as we know, sometimes costs just increase and those kinds of things, we have an opportunity to be able to update that and change that. When we talk about the qualitative incentives, so I've mentioned a couple of these. So these are qualitative incentives. They're worth $15,000 each, or a total of $45,000. And with these, what we did is we really looked at what do we want to achieve right now within our 5 flags. We want that economic impact focused targeted events. Like, what are the events? You can have a whole lot of events, but this is about the economic impact of those events. The events that, in a financial model, actually do well on your bottom line, and you don't have the pleasure of seeing all the things, but there are certain events that you have because it's a great community event. And we've talked about those when we've been at this table. Those are very important. Those would continue on as we've done. However, this is about being able to bring in things that actually can have the positive impact on that. And it's positive both for the facility as well as us as the owners, and impacting the neighborhood, the businesses. So it's that multiplier effect that we're really looking at. The second one is stakeholder development relationship. And this was one that to me was very, very important to focus on, is I wanted to see us be able to build an even stronger relationship with all of those that are listed there, and really have a strategy about how do we collaborate more. Sometimes in a city, they look at us, or because OVG is acting for us, they look at us and they're like, well, you know, just it's all going to happen. This is all about really strategically looking at it, that what can businesses do that they can contribute, and vice versa, that we can, where it's a mutually beneficial type thing, instead of just, you know, the give and take. I just take, I don't give. So how can we create those relationships? How can we have them listening to what people are saying and sharing what that happens to be? How do we make it so we can improve that business model, so, and also create the two-way communication to be able to know what people are feeling? They think this is good. Is this really affecting well? Is it a good decision or not? What are the things we're seeing that are actually having that economic impact? And maybe what are some of the things that are not. So that's what this one is about. And then the last one is about an operating budget success, successfully developing and managing that budget in each applicable year. And that is, you can look at the revenue side, but on the other side, you also have to do the expense side. So it's like, what can we do to be more efficient, effective? How are we managing those dollars? Not just that we have X amount of money to spend, but more, how do we really look at that? Now, why have we really changed this agreement, as well as we did the same thing for Grand River Center up, and be so different than what we had before? Because before, to a certain extent, it's a little bit easier. Like, you just have to meet this budget, and then if you save money, we'll give you half and we keep half, and that's a really, you know, that's a good deal. But the way that the laws and rules are now is that they have this thing called safe harbor. And what safe harbor means is that we need to meet that in order to have tax-exempt bonds. We're going to be selling a whole bunch of them here pretty soon. So we need that to be able to continue to be tax exempt, which means you need to meet safe harbor. Our old agreement doesn't meet it. And so you could negotiate that way, but it is not in our best interest to do that. That's why we revamped Grand River Center. That's why we've revamped this one as well. Next up, our revenue incentive cap. So instead of just being able to say, well, if you went way over on revenue and you can have all the money in the world, there is this cap. So the fixed management fee, like this year, is $105,000. And if you added your revenue incentive and those qualitative incentives together, then it cannot exceed whatever that annual management fee is. So there is this cap that is a part of that. The one thing that is not capped is 15% of all commercial rights revenue. That is not a part of the first revenue incentive. It's more industry standard, particularly in a civic center type of, an event center type of a place, because if you've gone to any of them, you name the ones, even any of the ones that were on the screen, what do you see? You walk up and it's like, this area is sponsored by so-and-so, and this area is sponsored by so-and-so, and this, they do almost everything but the bathrooms, it seems like, and maybe they do that too, I don't know. But anyway, being able to, have those sponsorships, have the naming rights, have, the building be named. You saw a number of those that were on the screen, that the building is named for a particular business. All of that is such that they would get 15% of whatever they're able to sell. And then we benefit from the other side of that, so we benefit from the difference. Additionally, OVG has brought forward a $150,000 contribution. That contribution can be used for event programming, marketing enhancements, leasehold, capital equipment, anything that really helps with that revenue generation. So essentially, over the first couple months, as they get their feet together and they kind of see and they start working on this, they're going to be coming to me and talking to me, and we'll talk back and forth about, okay, what's the best way to spend this in order to make the most impact. And we thank them for making that a part of the deal. So the budget is very different, like I said. It was a benchmark before, and now it's incentives. Our budget starts on July 1st, and that's the date that this agreement would start. So we start right at the beginning of the fiscal year. Currently, the budget that you approved has the funding that's listed there, it's $1,172,430, and the negotiated budget that we have is a little bit over that. It's $26,480 is the difference. I could have tried to beat them up and try and make what this is, but the thing that I know is that the first year of the transition, there's just things. There's surprises. There's some stuff that comes up. It's kind of like buying a house, right? Didn't imagine you were going to have to do this, but you found that out. And so it will be just a little bit over that for this beginning year. And then, as we saw, likely with Grand River Center, for a couple years it takes to get it balanced out. Like, this is our real actual budget going forward. What I have proposed is that when we're looking at carryovers of FY 25 into 26, I'll look to see if we have any savings within the department budget. If not, then we'll work on figuring out where it's at in the new 26 budget. Let's see here. Oh, and there's one other small thing that we're going to do that I thought of this at the last second. We also, and this is so that you know, if you see the Five Flags truck driving around right now, it has City of whatever on the Dubuque on the side. And when we were working through this agreement, we came upon, because of some other things that we did as a city. As a city, we decided, okay, everybody once a year, you have to go look at everybody that drives a city truck. You have to show me your license and, make sure you're insurable and all that sort of thing. And so we were actually going to the contractor and saying, hey, we want to see your employee stuff. which is kind of awkward, but we did it. So once we were going through this, we really talked about it. We went to our risk managers, and they're like, we just need to be able to transfer the truck to OVG. Then it's under their insurance. They can make sure all of their employees are doing all the things that they need to do because they're their employees, not ours. And then whenever this contract would end, then they would go ahead and transfer that vehicle back to us. So that's laid out in this. It's a little bit different. So what would happen is the stickers that say city on it will go away. It'll still be a Five Flags truck and probably branded in whatever the branding is that they come up with. But that is one very different thing that's in here that we don't have in a current agreement. So we have a go-live date, like I said, of July 1st. They have laid out a clear pathway. We've done this once already. The OVG and ASM Global are both going back and forth. They both have transition plans. They're both working together and sharing information back and forth. One is working to close a business. The other one's looking to open a business, but there's a lot of information that has to go between. That's been going very well, and great thanks to the ASM Global staff as well as the regional director. They've been working very well together in order to be able to make that work. So we're very excited about that. Transition-wise, positions have been posted. They've been doing interviews, working their way through in order to be able to make sure that we can have this happen. So like I say, there's many thanks to be able to be given. ASM Global has been with us 21 years, and we do thank them for their service to the city over these 21 years. If you think back to all of the concerts, all of the exciting things, many people talk about the concert they went to as a kid and the events, or the grandparents taking the grandkids to the different things. Many, many memories that ASM Global has helped be able to make happen in our community. We thank the current GM, Aaron Rainey, and all the Civic Center staff, both past and present, that brought us to today. So many, many thanks to them. My thanks to the RFP committee. We also, like I said, had the bond council review this so that we could make sure. So Dorsey and Whitney weighed in on the agreement. Jason Lehman, we seem to be connected because we've now done 2 of these, so we're like, whew, we made it through both. So I'm really appreciative of all of his help as he's gone along. And then, like I said, Bill Kruger was our third-party consultant and just has great knowledge that really helped a lot in this. So the next step after the approval of this agreement for us is to start working on the RFP for architectural and engineering services for the capital renovation. So it is my intent to work on, in my half-time position, being able to work on bringing forward to you that next step after we do this, because that's a very, very important step for us to get on. So with that, before we have questions, I do want to be able to invite Jeremy and Ryan up to say a few words on behalf of OVG. So I'm going to turn the podium over to you. Just introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Jeremy Hilsing. I'm a district GM with Oakview Group. So I've been with the company for about 17 years now. I'm based out of St. Louis, Missouri. And Marie, thank you. She did a great job outlining our strategy. So I'll just say a few words. You know, we understand how important these facilities are to communities. So we're committed to a strong and transparent partnership. I think what we're especially excited about is the existing relationship with Grand River Center and some of those meaningful synergies that we can create. Ryan's done a great job. His staff has done a great job. So I think with his leadership, with the support, the resources of OVG, we really think we can create some operational efficiencies, align some of the business operations to create value for the city, for the community, and then certainly for both venues. So, and it's not just folks like me from OVG that'll support. I mean, we have corporate support for all the different departments. You know, there's regional finance directors, regional marketing directors. So Ryan and his team will have, they've had a bunch of support at Grand River Center. They'll have a bunch of support at Five Flags. So again, we're truly excited about it. Thank you again for the opportunity we'll look forward to growing our partnership with the city of Dubuque.
Absolutely. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Appreciate y'all providing us this opportunity here in Dubuque. To echo Jeremy's points, we're very excited about taking the next step into bringing great experiences to Dubuque and for all of our local Dubuquers. I was hoping at some point we can get a new action item to extend Marie a little bit longer. So if we could work on that, I'd be very happy. She's been just a pleasure to work with. But we're looking forward to it. We know it's going to be a little bit of a lift on our side. It's going to take a little bit of time, but we're excited to start that process here in 2 weeks.
Great. Well, Ryan, Jeremy, Marie, thank you so much for being here. Very nice to meet you. Ryan, always nice to see you. So, and glad to hear that you're going to be overseeing both of these. I think that is great to hear, because I agree. The work that you've done at the Grand River Center has been very, very good. So we really appreciate it. Marie, your presentation, I think, answered a whole bunch of the questions that we could possibly have. But in case we have any more, we'll open it up for any discussion here. Mr. Resnick.
Thank you. First of all, Ms. Ware, I share your enthusiasm for this change, and I do like the synergy. I think that word is overused, but it's perfect for what's going to happen here between these properties. I read the article in the Telegraph Herald. There was a lot of great information, and OVG 360 is known for its excellence and its enthusiasm, and that's been my personal experience as well. So that's very exciting for this to be happening. One thing that intrigued me was you mentioned, Ms. Ware, about resources to assist the city in allocating the funds for projects, and I'm going to put with impact. We're going to rely on their content ability to say, you know what, this is what we need to do with that money, and this is going to make the most impact. You know, I hear a lot about Five Flags Theater. People love it. I love it. You know, it's a great place. Seats need to be bigger. The aisles need to be wider. There needs to be bathrooms. And I'd love to have some content people, as yourselves, the experts, come in and say, well, maybe how wide? Maybe how are we going to do this that's going to have the most impact on our citizens? How can we raise good revenue with the Civic Center so that we can really have artistic considerations come to boil up at the Five Flags Theater? And sometimes it's not all about making money, right? It's sometimes we have to think about the art that's going on. And I'm gonna, I'll have you comment if you would, Ms. Ware, but that's what I'm excited about, is having people looking at that building and all the things that go on there, and make some suggestions for what we can really do with that money to make a difference.
Yeah, and, you know, sounds like a big budget, but one of the things we're going to have to do is really pick the things that have the most impact. And that's one of the pieces that, you know, I really felt like these people behind me, they're the ones that I've learned a lot over the time, but they're the ones that like live in these, and they also know that looked good on paper, doesn't work out, right? Because they've had other people do it in other areas. So I'll let them talk about their experts in this area. I know that they have people that's part of their focus, as well as they have this network of who did complete renovations just recently, who's done them in the last 5 or 10 years, because they've lived it and they know that really worked out well. Nah, that wasn't worth the money. So I'll let them share beyond that.
Sure. It's a great question. You know, I think a lot of it is we need to take the time to see that building on a firsthand basis. Myself and some of my staff members are going to go to the Chicago concert here in a couple nights. And while I've been at events at Five Flags since I've been in market, it's one thing to go to an event, you know, you bring your son and your kid. It's another where, like, how does ingress work? How does egress? How are the concession stands? How's the bathroom load going? So looking at it in that eyes, I think is going to be a lot of it. I've been fortunate to work a lot of different venues. I've been fortunate enough to be in the room with the architect designing a public assembly venue. So I think, you know, with myself, Jeremy, other people within Oakview Group, we're going to be able to sit here and go, what does make sense? Where do we put it? You know, how does this actually work for the public, for our experiences that we can provide our guests?
Yeah, and one more thing to add, just from the operational perspective, Ryan and I have been able to take a tour and look through the facility. But again, until we're in there on a day-to-day basis, it's really hard to say at this point. We have been working with a couple of our operational, corporate executives, so we're already working on a trip for one of them to come out in July to really kind of look under the hood of the facility and really help us and help the city come up with, what are going to be the most meaningful, impactful changes that we can make at Five Flags.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Russo?
Thank you. I'd just like to say that I think OVG, it's good to have a friend coming to the table. I think you've already done a great job with our city asset at Grand River Center, improving the building, making people feel welcome to a quality space and quality events. And I'm really excited to think about the ways that you are going to be an asset to our Five Flags Theater, something that our community can really benefit from, and people from outside the community as well. And I'd also just like to add that I like the fact that OVG, and I didn't see it mentioned anywhere, but you're involved in our community. You're a good corporate citizen, and that's so important with all the businesses that we deal with. It's not just about what you do at work, but it's about being part of the community, and people know who you are, and I think that will really help you build all the partnerships that you want to make. So thank you for what you've done, and I'm really looking forward to what you'll do. Thanks.
Ms. Wethel?
Well, Jeremy, it's nice to meet you. Thank you for coming and spending the evening with us. I just have to say, I have been so impressed with Ryan from the very beginning. I'm so grateful you're here, and I'm so grateful you're going to step in this role. I think it's going to be a dynamic, exciting time for both venues. One thing I do want to share, I'm a city council member and a nurse practitioner, so I'm not an architect and I don't run venues. I'm not going to claim to. I hope that when we are done with the reinvestment, that when I walk into the historic theater, I don't see what I see now. When I walk into the historic theater, it seats everyone comfortably. We are paying homage to what came before us and what will be here for generations to come. And so, although I know that there will need to be a great investment in the facility, all of the facility, I feel very passionate personally about reinvestment in the historic theater. And when we talk about historic preservation in the city of Dubuque, we mean it. So I am not a venue coordinator, but I very much would appreciate attention moving forward and bringing to council concerns that you have. Working with our staff, I know very communicatively, you have done a great job, Ryan, but always bringing things to council too. We have our goal setting processes in September. And so as things move forward, as you dig in, like you said, you lift up the hood, I would be excited to learn more moving into goals and priorities for the coming year, to learn if you have new ideas about where we need to go as a council. Thank you.
All right. Well, this is a really exciting move. It's been time for this. We're ready for it now. The timing is actually very, very good. I think it coincides with a number of things, with Marie being where she is in her career, and I think a transition happening there. But then also being able to pass that baton and say, we have a lot of work to do, and we need somebody good to be able to do it. So I really appreciate that you're coming in now and that we have this opportunity. And the whole idea of being able to connect the two very important facilities, I think, is key to this whole thing. So I'm very excited by what I've heard tonight. I'm really excited for the next year. This is going to be a great move. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Excuse me. All right. So we have the motion on the table here is to receive and file and approve the agreement. So without any further comments, Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprink.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0. Thank you.
Action item number 5 is PFAS litigation.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Russell?
I move to receive and file.
Second.
I got a motion by Russell, second by Resnick. I'm coming to you, Brenna. Thank you.
As you know, PFAS has been an ongoing issue for our organization and many others. Litigation on this matter continues against a number of defendants. The city retained the Barron and Budd law firm out of Texas as our outside counsel related to PFAS litigation. And we, the city, participated in what is called an MDL, or multi-district litigation, that was affiliated with public water providers in some bellwether cases out of South Carolina against 3M. The case against 3M has settled, and that settlement is for an amount not less than 10.5, I think all those zeros are billion dollars, and not more than $12.5 billion. As part of the MDL, a claims administrator was appointed and charged with overseeing the allocation of the settlement funds. And the settlement fund awards are being based on a formula tied to PFAS testing and the results based on the amount in the test results and the water used in the system and things of that nature. And that will help allocate the settlement amount to the qualifying class members. The 3M settlement amounts are going to be paid over a period of years. We can expect that 65% of the settlement amount will be paid this year, calendar year 2025, and 35% will be paid over the remaining years. The net payment is currently estimated at just under $3.4 million. And that amount could increase slightly because the claims administrator has held some funds in set aside to make sure that all amounts are paid out appropriately. And additionally, there will be some interest earnings on all of those dollars as they are held and distributed. So there will be likely a small increase in that at a later date. The other thing to note is that there are actions against a number of other PFAS manufacturers that are outstanding, and it is possible that some additional litigation will be pursued, so there could be some additional opportunity related to PFAS claims there as well. So we can potentially expect additional funds in the future.
Great. Thank you, Corinna. Mike, I have an opening question for you. Can you remind me how much the new well is costing us, the deep well that we have to dig?
I'm trying to remember here. Chris Luster, are you on the call?
Sorry to throw that out of left field.
Yeah, Mike, I'm here.
Yeah, can you
go ahead,
get it, sir, please?
Sure. So the original estimates that we received from Strand Associates was in the neighborhood of $5 million. So we're working with them right now to provide a more current, up-to-date estimate. But we're hoping to keep that right around the $5 million range. But again, they're working with current numbers. And we're hoping to get a kind of assessment back to the city manager here within the next week or two.
Great. Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate that. Makes my point just a little bit. You know, this is great, first of all, Corinna. You and your team have really gone after this and worked really hard to make sure that Dubuque was at the table when it comes to PFAS litigation, because there is a lot of PFAS litigation. And there are a lot of Dubuques out there. There are a lot of places like us that have to deal with this problem. I'm going to say this out loud as many times as I possibly can. People of Dubuque did not cause this problem in their water. The city of Dubuque did not cause this problem in its water. This happened because companies put these chemicals into the environment and then they ended up in our water systems. But guess who's on the hook for it? Cities are. All across the country, we have to deal with this. So we're doing everything we can to try and make sure that we have these funds, and I appreciate the work that's been going into it. The unfortunate injustice of it all is the fact that I don't think the money will ever be enough to pay for what the cities need to do.
What are you looking at? What position?
Yeah, I think we're helping to mute here for a second. Yep, so it will never be enough, but we're gonna keep going after it, so it's good. But the injustice of it all does gall me, I have to say. Mr. President.
There's a question for Corinna Brumwell here. That is, talking about the mayor's point, if we were to spend as much as we got on the problem, is that going to be enough. It probably won't clear up everything, but I mean, I think if we made good use of the funds that come our way, that's a great thing and something we can look forward to doing. But obviously, that's not going to cover everything, is our guess. And so, what is the impact of saying we're going to do the best with the money that we receive to solve this problem? And then when the money's gone, I mean, what else can we do?
So yes, I think the funds we receive will never fully fulfill the needs that we have to address it, right? That's the nature of this multi-district litigation or like class action lawsuits and things like that. They try to do the best they can for the large number of individuals, or in this case, communities that are impacted. What we continue to do is to explore other cases and other avenues where there might be manufacturers that have some responsibility so that we can maximize the amount of funds that we're bringing in to try and mitigate. We're also looking and paying attention to things that are happening at the federal and state level to see if there's anything we can do, whether it's grants or low interest type of financial structures, right, to try and minimize what the impact this will have at the local level.
Okay, so it's really hard to answer if you don't have enough money to. I mean, it's obviously the citizens of Dubuque, as the mayor said, should not have to be ponying up some money for big companies who obviously made a profit on this product that doesn't seem to want to go away and is bad for our health. So we want to take care of our health here in Dubuque. So it'll be interesting, and it's a long process. So we'll have to see how that goes. Though, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
One thing I do just want to mention is by participating in the multi-district litigation, if we had not been a participant in the multi-district litigation, we would have gone to the very back of the line, and it could have been years, if not decades, before we ever got our day in court to even have the possibility of receiving any money. So this really was a balancing effort and making the best, informed and educated decision that we could to make the most impact now.
All right, Ms. Wethel.
I just want to say this makes it sound like it's just happening and no big deal. Our legal department has worked tirelessly on this work. We as a council have been very much involved in making sure that the residents of Dubuque are well compensated to the best of our ability to get funding for our wells, to get funding to fix the problem. And so this isn't even close. And I'm not taking away from what you've done or what your crew has done, because you've done an amazing job. But this isn't even close to what the residents of Dubuque deserve. They bought these products, these companies made money, and then they polluted our earth and our water. Shame on them. And here we are, residents of Dubuque, having to fund their profits. I will never feel good about this. This is not even close to what we deserve, what the residents of Dubuque deserve. Thank you for your work on it, and thank you for continuing to work on it to get every last cent that we can for the residents of our city. Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion on the table to receive and file, which is just to receive and file this information. So, Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel. Aye. Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Action item number 6 is amending fiscal year 2026 water rates under City of Dubuque Code of Ordinances.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file and further move that the requirement that these ordinances be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second.
I got a motion by Russell and a second by Sprank. Corey, please.
Chief Financial Officer Jennifer Larson is recommending City Council approval to amend ordinances that reduces the fiscal year 2026 water rate increase from 9% to 8%. City Attorney Corinna Brumwell has led the City of Dubuque effort to be a part of national products liability litigation public water system settlements related to PFAS. After fiscal year 2026 budget adoption, City Attorney Corinna Brumwell had worked with a national law firm to secure a settlement with the sheriff for Dubuque totaling $3.4 million through fiscal year 2033, with most of the settlement received by December 2025. In addition, fiscal year 2025 water operating expenses are under budget by an estimated $800,000. It is recommended that the water rate increase for fiscal year 2026 be reduced to 8%. It is also recommended that the minimum monthly water charge be reduced to $9.61, which reflects an 8% rate increase. Proposed and amended rate structures of comparable Iowa communities with lime softening treatment similar to Dubuque are compared in the following table. The calculation is based on the average residential usage of 6,000 gallons per month. And in the table, it ranks the highest community as Des Moines with $46 as their proposed fiscal year 2026 water cost for 6,000 gallons. Dubuque ranks in the middle of that table fourth at $42.18 for 6,000 gallons. And the lowest ranked is Council Bluffs at $37.13. The proposed rate increase of 8% would place Dubuque as having the fourth lowest water rate. The highest rate, Des Moines, is 9.06% higher than Dubuque's rate. The average without Dubuque is 1.64% lower than Dubuque's proposed rate. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Corey. Well, this is the good news for residents out of what we just talked about, the fact that we can actually make some adjustments to the water rates here to be able to charge everybody less in the next year. So I'm definitely thankful that we've been able to do that. Any other questions? Okay. Well, motion here is to receive and file and waive the 3 readings. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick. Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinances.
Second by Sprank.
Motion by Roussel, second by Sprank. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Action item number 7 is request for City Council ratification of Teamsters Local 120 Mixed July 1st, 2025 Collective Bargaining Agreement.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Wethel.
I move to receive and file and approve.
Second.
Got a motion by Wethel and second by Roussel. Corey, please.
Chief Human Resources Officer Shelley Stickford is recommending City Council ratification of the City of Dubuque Teamsters Local 120 Mixed Collective Bargaining Agreement to become effective July 1st, 2025. Consistent with the provisions of Iowa Code Chapter 20, Public Employment Relations, Collective Bargaining, and as directed by the City Council, the City of Dubuque's bargaining team engaged in a collective bargaining process with the Teamsters Local 120 Mixed and reached a tentative agreement on or about April 18th, 2025. The city received notice on or about May 30th, 2025 that the Teamsters Local 120 Mixed, through a membership vote, ratified the tentative agreement. I concur with the recommendation and respectfully request Mayor and City Council approval.
Thank you, Corey. Well, I want to thank everybody involved in this one. This is something that obviously the City Council is involved with as we go through this process, but it really is the team of Shelley Stickford and her team on the city side, but then also the folks that represent the Teamsters and represent the union in this case, I think coming together to be able to come up with a very good agreement. So I'm happy to see what we have here. All right, any other questions or discussion? Motion here is to receive and file and approve. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick. Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
And that motion passes 6-0.
Action item number 8 is ordinance amendment Civil Service Commission membership.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second?
Motion by Roussel, second by Resnick. Adrian.
On May 19th, 2025, Governor Kim Reynolds signed Iowa Senate File 311 into law, which takes effect on August 16th, 2025. A key provision of the law amends Iowa Code Section 400.1-1, requiring cities with a population over 50,000 to set the number of civil service commissioners at no fewer than 5 and no more than 7. Previously, only cities with a population over 70,000 were required to have a minimum of 3 commissioners. The submitted ordinance brings the city of Dubuque into compliance with this new requirement by increasing the number of Civil Service Commission members from 3 to 5, effective August 16, 2025.
Thank you, Adrian. Mr. Resnick.
Yeah, just a quick question. What is the makeup of that 5-member group then? I mean, because they had different members representing different groups with the 3. How are they doing with the 5?
Essentially, the ordinance just requires that members have to be residents within the city of Dubuque, and they do serve staggered terms. So, the ordinance does mention that the terms of the current commissioners are unchanged. So they currently serve staggered terms where each of their terms intentionally expire on a different year. So I believe one was this year, so 2025, one's 2026, and I believe another was 2029. And so the ordinance specifies that for the new terms, that they both will expire in 2027.
I see. And will this affect anything that can you see that this might have any effect on what they do here with the city and for the city, or is it just from 3 to 5?
It's just from 3 to 5. So essentially, and the ordinance does mention that it does change the quorum that is required for action. So previously was 2 members required for a quorum, now it's 3. Other than that, all of the specific responsibilities as defined in both state and city code remain unchanged.
I see. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other questions? Okay. Motion here is to receive and file and waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second?
Motion by Roussel, second by Resnick. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Action item number 9 is ordinance amendment mayor and city council compensation.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move to receive and file, and further move that the requirement that a proposed ordinance be considered and voted on for passage at 2 council meetings prior to the meeting at which it is to be finally passed be suspended.
Second.
Motion by Roussel, second by Wethel. Adrian again, please.
The Mayor and City Council Compensation Task Force recommendation for Mayor and City Council salary adjustments was presented to the Mayor and City Council at the June 2nd, 2025 City Council meeting. The task force recommended the salary for the mayor be adjusted to $15,732, an annual increase of $932, and the salary for the City Council be adjusted to $11,799, an annual increase of $699. In accordance with the Mayor and City Council's decision to adopt the task force recommendation, I'm submitting an amendment to Section 1-6-2 of the City of Dubuque Code of Ordinances to adjust the salaries of the Mayor and City Council members effective January 1st, 2026, as required by Iowa Code Section 372.13.
Thank you, Adrian. Any further discussion of the item we already discussed? Seeing none, motion here is to receive and file and waive the 3 readings. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Roussel.
I move final consideration and passage of the ordinance.
Second.
Got a motion by Roussel, second by Wethel. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Action item number 10 is July-August 2025 City News newsletter.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Sprank.
I motion that we receive and file.
Second.
Motion by Sprank, second by Wethel. Anything to cover here, Corey, or just a general discussion? So we put these in here every once in a while, just so everybody gets to see the city news newsletter. That does come in the mail or maybe an email for people, but it is always nice to see this and appreciate very much that the city puts this out every single quarter, right? Is it quarterly? Yes. All right, motion here is to receive and file. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0.
Action item number 11 is updated handout, new housing creation.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file.
Second by Sprank.
Got a motion by Resnick and a second by Sprank. Another document here that we see every once in a while to give us an update on how things are going as far as housing construction. The nice thing to see is that the completed line gets, or the completed table gets longer every single time that we get to see it. And we also see that we now have 2,600 total lots and units being proposed here in the city. So this is, still continues to be very, very good news. I think we've done something as a city council and as a city that a lot of other communities have struggled to figure out. So congratulations to everybody as we move forward with this. All right, motion here is to receive and file. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Action item number 12 is work session request for Mounds Foundation.
Keep the motions coming. Mr. Resnick.
Yes. Mr. Mayor, I move to receive and file and set the work schedule, the work session for July 7th at 6 p.m.
Second.
Got a motion by Resnick, second by Roussel. It's right before a council meeting, so we should be good there. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Action item number 13 is work session request, Dubuque Nature Everywhere.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and set the work session for July 21st at 5:30.
Second by Sprank.
Motion by Resnick, second by Sprank. Also right before a council meeting. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
Motion passes 6-0.
Action item number 14 is work session request, Precision Policing Center.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Resnick.
I move to receive and file and set the work session for September 8th at 6 p.m.
Second.
I heard double second. Motion by Resnick, second by Roussel. This one is not before a council. This is actually a separate evening, just to make sure everybody's aware of that, on September 8th. A little bit more time allowed. So with that, motion here is to receive and file and set that. So Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel.
Aye.
Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Roussel.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprank.
Aye.
That motion passes 6-0.
Council member reports.
All right. What have we been up to these last 2 weeks? We're looking at calendars now. Yep.
It's easier.
It's generally been a lot. Yeah, Mr. Resnick, you can go first.
Mr. Mayor, I only wanted to talk about one thing, and that would be to highlight the Juneteenth celebration that you were there for. And there was an enthusiastic crowd, and they did, the Multicultural Family Center did a great job of organizing that. A lot of energy, a lot of interesting booths, and there was just a lot of great camaraderie at Jackson Park, and it was just a great event. I hadn't been to a Juneteenth celebration before, but I'm sure glad my wife and I went, and it was exciting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
That's great. Yeah, it was very fun, for sure. It gets bigger and better every single year, it seems. So this one was wonderful. Yeah, Mr. Sprank.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After we met, I had 2 neighborhood association meetings, and then on the 7th, I was downtown at the all-day setting up and running around organizing and involved with the wonderful Pride Festival where we estimated at least 4,000 people came and gone during the course of the day because we took multiple drone pictures and during different times of the day and started averaging the numbers, and it was like 4,000 people. So thank you for everybody that came and that could make it. I know the mayor was there. He reread his lovely proclamation and got a lot of cheer for that. So, but yeah, it was just a great day. I had wonderful weather. So thanks all. Thank you.
So I just want to stop for a quick second and recognize that 4,000 people. 4,000 people.
Yep.
That has to put us on a list somewhere, doesn't it?
That's the
as
goal.
far as Midwest. That's fantastic, Mr. Spring. I mean, honestly, you and everybody else who were involved in organizing that. You want to say bigger and better. I mean, that has really, moving it to the town clock was a great move. And wow, 4,000 people. That's really incredible. Congratulations on that. Thank you. Yeah, Ms. Russell.
Thank you. I had the opportunity to work at the merchandise booth at the 30th anniversary for All That Jazz, and it was wonderfully attended. They had the band, The Business, and it was very nostalgic for a lot of people that have gone to these events over the years. We had prints from All That Jazz through the years, and I saw so many people down there. The evening was great. It was just another fun Dubuque event. And then the next day, I did go down to the Pride event and to see all the booths that were there and all the people that were there, and everybody was having a great time, and it was a wonderful weekend in Dubuque.
Thanks, Ms. Russell. Ms. Wethel.
On June 12th, I had the pleasure of going to the Talent Dubuque Welcome Luncheon held by Greater Dubuque Development Corporation. Mayor gave opening remarks, and nothing like having, 150 guys and gals in the room that were there just as interns here in Dubuque, learning what they want to do with their lives and hoping to maybe get a job doing what they're doing right now. Representative Kolker and I took part in the interactive portion of the moderators' activities, and I got to hang out with Lucas, who is a absolutely great Laura student from Dixon, Illinois, who is really hoping he gets a job with Kunkel because he loves what he's doing as an internship. Loves Dubuque. He's having a great time here. So it was exciting to be around the energy of that room, and great job to GDDC for a really nice event. I was also down at the Juneteenth event, and I had someone take me aside with gratitude of our police department taking a very prominent role in thus far what we've had for festivals downtown and gatherings downtown, and just somebody wanted to make sure that they shared their gratitude to our police department for creating safe spaces for people to be together. So wanted to share that.
Thanks, Ms. Wethel. Ms. Farber, did you have anything to add? I don't want to forget about you.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. I just wanted to give a shout out also to Main Street and Laura's and her team's effort for All That Jazz. There were, speaking of thousands of people, there were at least 1,000 plus, I would say almost 2,000, that did attend that 30th anniversary. And so kudos to the organizers for that event. And then I also wanted to give a shout out to all of the dancers from age 4 to high school that performed a recital at the University of Dubuque that same weekend, where it started, I think, at 11 and went to like 7 at night with interim breaks for all the dance troops. And it was just quite impressive to see all of the groups of dancers and their enthusiasm, and that their hearts are into this kind of sport, representing Dubuque, and that they work all year for this one recital, plus they also do competitions. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Vibe in that group. It was quite impressive and just a lot of fun to see those young ladies and men perform for the city. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, one of the things that's in the Dubuque vision statement that we review every year mentions the word fun. It actually says fun in there. And I was thinking about that as we were talking about all these different things, because the list in the last 2 weeks was really long. If you think about things to do in the city of Dubuque, Pride, Juneteenth, jazz, there's music at the Star, music in the park, DRA's 40th celebration for the 40 years of the DRA, Millwork Night Market, the Art Museum's final weekend before they move to a temporary location. If you're bored, you're not getting out enough. There's a lot to do in Dubuque, and it really has become such a fun place to live. So that's part of the joy of going through some of the challenges that we discussed tonight, and different things that we have to look at every time we get together. And there's a lot of fun being had by the people that we represent and by the neighbors we live next to. So it's just great living in a community like this. It really is. All right, we got a little bit more work to do. We have a closed session, so I'll entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Russell?
I move that we go into closed session to discuss pending litigation and purchase or sale of real estate in accordance with Chapter 21.5 of the Code of Iowa. Is that right?
Second.
Got a motion by Russell, second by Resnick. For the record, the attorney the city council will consult with in closed session with the issues to be discussed in closed session is City Attorney Crenna Brumwell. Adrian, would you call the roll, please?
Wethel. Aye. Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Russell.
Aye.
Resnick.
Aye.
Farber.
Aye.
Sprink.
That motion passes 6-0. We are in closed session.